Right.
Hello everyone, welcome live to 3 Wide TV, race number 9 of the American Sim Racing Series, Premier Series, live from Richmond Raceway, Richmond, Virginia, for race number 2 of the Sim Speed Shop Wheelman Showdown here tonight. 200 laps here around the 3/4 mile racetrack located just outside Richmond, Virginia. I'm Peter Short, and joining me in the booth here tonight is Mitchell Adams. A little bit of fresh blood here in the ASRS series, but Mitchell, short track racing, we saw it last week at Martinsville, the Famucci Ware 200, but here tonight, Richmond, a lot of side-by-side action here tonight expected.
Yeah, Richmond always seems to put on a good race about any time I've watched a race here, and these guys definitely looking like they're ready for some racing in practice. So definitely looking forward to watching this one in my first time.
Yeah, definitely. This racetrack likes to put on a good show for all the fans. Of course, iRacing recently came out, reworked this racetrack a little bit, definitely gave a lot more grip to the middle groove. So we've seen a lot of drivers running the middle and high lines here in the practice session. Kind of a unique thing here for Richmond. Usually you've seen all the drivers on the bottom side of the racetrack in years past, but now the drivers are a little bit freer to migrate up the racetrack to try and pick up some speed. So we'll see how the track evolves here as the sun continues to beat down on the racetrack. It is a day race, and if you can bring up the current weather conditions here at the racetrack, 75 degrees ambient temperature with a track temperature hovering at about 113. And Mitchell, that's going to make for a pretty slippery race track here tonight.
Yeah, it definitely looks like a lot of these cars are really slippery and struggling for grip out of the corners especially. So it definitely is going to take a lot of work from the drivers to keep all four wheels under them tonight. And especially working too wide and fighting in traffic. Going to definitely be fun to watch and work through.
Yeah, definitely going to be a lot of fun out there for all of us here in the 3 Wide TV booth. Let's see if we can bring up the race points coming into tonight. And folks, if you've been watching us all season long, you have known that it has been the Greg Evans and Scott Eckrich fight. But last week we saw the first driver not named Scott Eckrich or Greg Evans get to go to victory lane, and he moves himself up to second place in points behind your points leader Greg Evans. That is Tyler Seville, just 2 points ahead of Scott Eckrich coming into tonight. The top 3 drivers have got all 8 wins so far this season. We'll see if we can get a 4th different winner of the season here tonight. Doug Mullins in the number 18 machine. He's been knocking on the door in that Chevrolet. He'll come into tonight 4th spot in the point standings right there. Brian Yazek coming into the point standings in 5th. Corey Silva 6th. Will Worster, Adam Jersky, Grant Brown, and Jimmy McKee there rounding out the top 10 in points. And you can see a couple of the drivers a little bit further back in the point standings. Of course, we always keep our eye on the battle for 20th position in points, because that is the cutoff for automatically being guaranteed a start here in the Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series. And right now that spot is held by Steve Yenish, John Eckhart, Jackson Van Valkenburg, Nick Curling, though all over the back bumper of Steve Yenish, so to speak, in the point standings. So we'll see whether or not Steve can hold on to that 20th spot in points. And you know, Mitchell, that getting a guaranteed spot in one of these races is a really good feeling to be able to just kind of turn up and race.
Yeah, it's always nice when you can go and do a race knowing you're secured in. And definitely that's going to be something to keep an eye on farther down in the points. Guys definitely want to get that advantage and knowing that they can race a little bit harder in the coming races.
That is for sure. Now, folks, we are in the practice session right now. We have just a couple minutes left until this practice session does run out. Scott Eckrich and Greg Evans atop the leaderboard currently. So if you've been watching all season long, like I said, Eckrich and Evans combining to win 7 of the first 8 races. Well, they're right at the top of the board again here tonight. Will Worster, Mitch Brown, 3rd and 4th. Both of those drivers really close behind Evans and Eckrich. as Evans and Eckrich continue to kind of trade off the top spot here in the practice session. Tyler Seville, last week's race winner at Martinsville in 5th, the other short track in Virginia, as we got 2 consecutive weeks of short track racing here. And I know there has been a lot of discussion about the caution flags that we saw last week at Martinsville. So much so, there's actually been a change in the rule book this week. That's right. They actually implemented a change where tonight there is an 18 incident point limit. If you exceed that 18 incident point limit, you will be automatically disqualified from the race. And Mitchell, that's something these drivers will have in the back of their head from the get-go tonight.
Yeah, they're definitely going to be having to keep an eye on that, and at short tracks especially. I mean, it can be just getting on the brakes a little bit later than the car in front of you is enough to get a 4x incident point. So definitely it's going to be a mix of being cautious and making sure not to get your incident count too high, but also trying to work your way up and hopefully get up for the race win near the end.
And for the people watching at home and don't know what incident points are, well, here in iRacing, you can accrue incident points through the entire race. You can get different increments, 1, 2, or 4 incident points at a single time. Usually you see a 1x incident point. That is either you've hit the wall too hard or you've gone down into the grass, kind of off the racing surface. A 2 times increment point, well, that means you've lost control of your car, but you might not really hit anything. You've just lost control. However, a 4x is pretty much what we all call it. A 4x is when you make contact with another driver. And sometimes that, like you said, Mitchell, can just be a slight tap. Sometimes it takes a lot to get it. So we'll see here tonight which of these drivers, if any, succumb to that 18 incident point limit. But with all the smoke we've seen here in the practice session, there you see a little bit just drifting off from the racetrack. We might have a couple of drivers succumb from that new rule here tonight. The goal is to hopefully prevent contact and eventually cautions. We'll see how that all pans out here tonight. But folks, we're moving over into the Midwest Simulations Pole Shootout here tonight. Who will pick up that Midwest Simulations Pole Award here at the famed Richmond Raceway? Who has the short track talent? Mitchell, what are your thoughts about short tracks? Do you enjoy racing on the high bank on these short tracks?
I do like short track racing, and I think it provides a type of racing to watch that you don't really see in many other places, because there's a lot of braking and there's a lot of opportunities to dive in under someone, but it also creates a fun mix of you can drive it in hard, but you might not be able to make it stick. And definitely guys want to position themselves up toward the front of this field so they don't have to contend with a lot of the chaos that's going to happen in the middle of the pack.
And we saw plenty of that last week. Corey Silva going to jump atop the provisional pole here currently. While we're in this pole shootout, folks, why don't you go over to Midwest Simulations website, midwestsim.com. Go check out their Pit Buddy Pro Spotlights and Spotlights Pro for your sim rig, so you can get a little bit more aware when you're out there on the racetrack. There, I believe, is the number 88 machine of Thomas Georgeson in his pit box. We'll see if he can roll out there onto the racetrack. Haven't seen him. Oh, he has been out there. Excuse me. He's currently being scored in the 5th position here. Looks like might have been one and done for the number 88 machine. There you see the 29. I think that's Will Warser. A little bit of a new look on that machine this week. He's working his way through turn number... Well, he was about to work his way through turn number 3 and 4, but says, nope, not right now. But yeah, definitely go check out MidwestSim.com. But we also, of course, got round number 2 of the Sim Speed Shop Wheelman Showdown. And folks, if you haven't tuned in for the first race of the Wheelman Showdown, well, I'll tell you what, it was a spectacular race won by Scott Eckrich. Yeah, it was at Atlanta Motor Speedway a couple weeks ago, and he already has a leg up on the competition in the Wheelman Showdown, brought to you by Sim Speed Shop. The championship winner of the American Sim Racing Series Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series, they get a custom PC built by Hacksaw PCs. But then the winner of the Sim Speed Shop Wheelman Showdown, they win a custom steering wheel to put on their sim rig. So I know, Mitchell, I'd be fine either way. I've already got myself one of the Hacksaw PCs. It's right here beside me. An absolute awesome piece of equipment. But one of those custom wheels would be pretty awesome too.
You always like to add your sim setup, and that definitely sounds like something worth racing for these guys.
And for everyone wondering at home, last year the Wheelman Showdown went to driver of the number 2 machine, Greg Evans, currently sitting second place on the board. And the other recipient of the Sim Speed Shop Wheelman Showdown Award, which went to a random driver, was Tyler Seville. He's currently sitting third place on the board. So those custom wheels definitely showing some pace here tonight, sitting second and third on the board machine. How about that? A 21.61 to be atop the leaderboard right now. In fact, he basically backed up his practice lap time, 1/4, so picking up just 0.02 of a second here in the qualifying session. But here is one of the drivers who is also very, very quick in the practice session. Let's see if we can go on board here with Scott Eckrich, Mitchell. And, well, let's maybe we can get an on board with someone else. So just kind of take the fans for a lap around this racetrack, Mitchell.
Yeah, right now he's coming down the front straightaway. He's really trying to get the throttle down to get some grip in the rear tires. He's heading down toward turn 1, heavy on the brakes. Car really usually doesn't like to rotate, or excuse me, likes to open corners. Really just, he's struggling with grip around the racetrack. And the drivers who can find that grip through the corners and get the throttle down on exit, you see him get a little wiggly there on exit. Those are going to be the drivers you're going to see get up toward the front of the race.
Yeah, tire management here at Richmond is definitely super, super important, especially with a day race. We typically see Richmond as a night race, at least in real life, and a lot of leagues tend to run it at night. But here, getting a look at this racetrack in the day, it's going to make it really hot, make it very, very slick, and make these drivers really have to work to keep the 4 Goodyear tires underneath them here tonight. As the racetrack goes quiet, it looks like Will Warser will be picking up the Midwest Simulations Pole Award here tonight, and that will be his first pole award of the season. Only the 3rd pole award this season for Will Warser Racing. Tyler Seville picked up the pole at Homestead and Auto Club, so cool to have a new driver on the pole. But after that Midwest Simulations pole shootout, we now go into a little bit of the warm-up session. These drivers can kind of feel out getting on pit road. We see a lot of drivers practice getting to pit lane, and I know, Mitchell, you know that winning or losing races on pit road can very much happen on these short tracks.
Yeah, pit road can be one of the most difficult parts of the race to execute, and you can run as many good laps as you want, but if you make one mistake coming onto pit road, speaking from experience, that can really impact your race and take you out of a chance for a win. So getting in and on and off pit road as cleanly as possible is about as high a priority as we said that incident counter, making good laps out there.
Hopefully we can see some green flag pit stops here tonight. We saw most of the field last week at Martinsville only make one pit stop, and that was under caution flag conditions. So who knows if we'll see some green flag running, but this racetrack is plenty wide to run to wide, and a lot more room out there than what we saw last week at Martinsville Speedway. It's also a racetrack where if you spin off the racing surface, iRacing doesn't always bring out the caution flag. So hopefully that happens tonight, and we can get plenty of green flag laps in here at Richmond Raceway. Time for me to see what's going on over in the chat here on 3Y TV. I'll tell you what, always a lively bunch here in this series. And Nikki Warser in the chat, the DMLC Racing Channel, Chris DeWeese in the chat, Brian Greenlee. How are you guys doing tonight? Hopefully you're sitting back enjoying a lovely midweek Wednesday night. It is hump day here on 3Y TV. So let us know what you're up to here tonight. Let us know how your week's going. What do you want to see here tonight at Richmond? What are you expecting? I'm expecting a great race. I want to know. This is the question for the chat here tonight. How many drivers will fall due to the 18 incident point limit here tonight? Get 4 for being involved in an accident or making significant contact with another car, 2 for spinning, 1 for going off track or significantly hitting the wall. Add them up. If your number exceeds more than 18 at the end of the night, you will be automatically disqualified. I don't think we're going to see that many, Mitchell. I think we are going to see a few. I'm going to say 3 drivers here tonight are going to exceed that 18 incident point limit. Do you have any thoughts?
I think it probably, my guess is around 4 drivers. I'll put it one more. I think usually once drivers have that number out there of the incident count they can't be going over, then they race a little more cautiously because they know that they have to stay away from that. Whereas if that wasn't there, they can just go out and race and not really have to worry about an incident count. So definitely just having that in place is going to make these guys think twice about making some more aggressive moves that might cause wrecks.
Yeah, so we'll see how that plays out. Looking at the qualifying leaderboard, one driver who is a little bit further down in the pack than I would have thought, Mitch Brown in the number 36 machine, just recently made his way back to the Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series. He currently is doing quite well in this particular practice session as he bangs fenders with Greg Evans down the backstretch, but he ran a 21.64. Ooh, Scott Eckrich with a big slide in turn number 1. That was a big slide. Great save there by Scott Eckrich. Get all 4 tires back underneath him in the Amsoil Chevrolet. There you see the 27 Jordan Harnish going around. These drivers still trying to find out the limits of the racetrack, but going back to what I said about Mitch Brown, he ran a 21.64 in practice, only ran a 21.911 in qualifying. So Mitch Brown, a reigning series, no, not a reigning series champion, but former series champion here in the Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series. He's going to have to come from 21st in the pack here tonight. But Mitchell, 200 laps to do it, plenty of time.
Yeah, definitely plenty of time, and especially with the practice the speed he's shown in practice, he definitely has the car to get up toward the front. It's just about managing the traffic and managing the tires, because you could see some guys be a little bit faster on the shorter runs, but then once those tires fall off and the grip goes away even more, they might start to slide down through the pack. So definitely not a disadvantage being slower if that helps you save some tire for the long run. I think it's definitely going to be something to keep our eyes on if we get some green flag laps here tonight.
Absolutely. Well, the checkered flag has been thrown here on the warm-up session, so very quickly we will have cars gridding here tonight for race number 2 of the Sim Speed Shop Wheelman Showdown 200 at Richmond here tonight. Let's see if we can bring up those qualifying results and see if we can line up that grid for you here as the racetrack falls quiet. You get a good look there of the backstretch, very unique backstretch. This one, you can see how the tire marks they're coming out of turn number 2 just kind of shoot right towards the wall. Sure, we're going to see a couple of drivers hit the wall here tonight. Will Worsler on the pole, picking up the pole here tonight, brought to you by Midwest Simulations. Greg Evans will be starting to his outside in the number 2 machine, so 2 for 2 right there. Tyler Seville will be rolling off from 3rd. Last week's race winner at Martinsville, carrying a little bit of momentum into tonight. Scott Eckrich, who's won 3 times this season, will be rolling off from 4th spot. Brett McBride, we've seen a lot of pace out of him over the past couple of weeks, rolling off in 5th. Corey Silva, 6th. Woody Mahan, Thomas George, row number 4. Doug Mullins, AJ Digby, row number 5. Troy Haight and Steve Yanish on row number 6 there, Mitchell. Well, looks like we'll just continue to roll through the field here. Jeff Yenish, Michael Krobach on row number 7. Jason Stewart, Tim Knott, row number 8. Jackson Van Valkenburg, Nick Curling on row number 9. Evan Black and Grant Brown on row number 10. Mitchell Brown, Jonathan Cadell on row number 11. Adam Jursky, Pete Baskins, row 12. Behind them, Jonathan Holstein, Gary Reynolds Jr. on row 13. Alan Young, Kevin Stone in the Famucci, where number 17 will be rolling off from P28. Alan Young, 27th. Brian Yazik and Adam Littell on row number 15. Yazik, not often we see him start that deep in the field. He'll have to come from 29th here tonight. Then a couple of drivers who did not take time in qualifying. Johnny Avila, Braxton DeWeese, John Eckhart, Jordan Harnish, Mark Myers, Richard Fletcher, and Todd Kirkwood rounding out the 37-car field here tonight. No one went home after qualifying. All of the drivers here starting, and we are getting set to go back to green flag here at the beautiful Richmond Raceway. Just waiting for that pace truck to peel down onto pit road. The race will be in the hands of the number 29 Will Wursler Racing Machine of Will Wursler himself. I don't know why it's Will Wursler Racing still. Nikki, you need to get your name on that racing team. Make it Nikki Wursler Racing, but nonetheless, green flag is out, and we're racing here at Richmond, Mitchell.
Yeah, those drivers taking the green flag, headed down for turn 1. Still 2x2 throughout most of the field. Looks like the leaders, the front row is going to get single filed out, but they're still racing really hard behind them.
Yeah, that side-by-side battle was right there between the number 70 and the number 11, but Eckridge having some connection issues right there in the Amsoil machine. Now most of the field starting to get at least single file up at the front. Woody Mahan, Thomas George, your first side-by-side battle. The Alliance RV Maverick Concepts Ford just to the inside of the number 88. But that outside line is looking pretty strong here in the early going, Mitchell. We're seeing a couple of drivers make a pass on the high line and really fend off any type of charge from the inside groove. That's what I'm seeing here early in the going.
Yeah, the outside line definitely seems to be working, and if the drivers are getting up there and finding some grip, because I can see the cars are really sliding around, and the high line, there's grip up there. Sometimes you can't find it earlier in the race, but some of these guys are finding it and making it work over those guys on the inside line.
Yeah, and I think that grip level that we're seeing in that middle to high groove at this point is going to make it really difficult to make a pass on the inside groove, because when you're down there, you're bogged down, you're pushed down, you can't get on the power when you want to, and you can't use the top side of the racetrack to kind of keep your momentum up. So I think we're going to see a lot of drivers get kind of frustrated here tonight with how difficult it is. Looking like it is going to be able to make a pass. I'm just kind of watching some of the drivers a little bit further back in the pack, as you see right there. I think that's Troy Haight there trying to get around the number 14 of AJ Digby. And caution flag is out. First caution flag here tonight. Pete Baskins in the DMLC Racing Channel Ford Mustang has gone around coming out of turn number 2. Let's see if we can dial this one up here on tonight's first 3-wide TV replay. But it looks to me like at least a single car accident. Ooh, someone else was having a moment there on the front stretch that didn't bring out the caution flag. That was Adam Brazell, but Mitchell with 39 all by himself here, and looks like he's going around.
Got a little bit away from him.
Well, we'll go back and see what happened here. Adam Too much beans, now our producer often says. Gets down into the grass. Now you can see he was mostly off the racing surface, was able to keep it running. That's why there was no caution flag for that particular incident until Pete Baskins made it out of turn number 2. Spun it around, and that is when the caution flag flew. So first caution flag here tonight, early in the running. Hopefully we can get the caution flags out of the way early. Brian Greenlee in the chat right there saying, look at what they did to my boy Pete. Well, Pete went around there, and in fact, Pete Baskins on pit road right now getting tires on the number 39 machine as well. That's early in the race to be taking on tires, Mitchell. They do have a tire limit here in the Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series. I know those times when you might accidentally forget to uncheck your tires, so your pit crew starts changing them. Yes, you have to tell your pit crew to change or not change your tires, folks. But Pete Baskins there might be in a whole heap of trouble here early if he's already used up a tire set.
Yeah, that 39 crew might have wanted to just get some fresh tires on it in case he slid them a little bit too much, but definitely early in the race, only a few laps into it, about 8 laps in, definitely could hurt him later in the race when he needs a set of tires for a longer run. So definitely something to keep your eye on there.
Yeah, the 04 machine, Mark Myers, also coming on pit road here, folks. He just made it back out onto the racing surface, so some early pit stops for a couple of drivers further back in the pack. But all of your leaders staying out. Richard Fletcher in the number 43 machine also making a stop under this caution flag. John Eckhart as well. But we're re-racking them here, Mitchell, and about to go back green here on, looks like it will be lap number 10.
Yeah, they got a few laps to kind of feel out their cars and see what the grip's kind of like out there. So now going into this restart, I expect to see about the same thing. A lot of two wide racing, a lot of battles for position throughout the pack, and hopefully we can keep the green flag on and get a good run in here.
That is for sure. A couple of new paint schemes in the field here tonight. Kevin Stone got Equestra Bank on his number 17 machine. We'll see if we can highlight that in just a little bit. But the green flag gonna drop once again. And Will Worsler in his different look high flow industrial and environmental services number 29 gonna dive it off into turn number 1. But look who's right behind him. Greg Evans, 4 wins to his name this year in that Hacksaw PC number 2 Chevrolet. He is going to try and get to the race lead here as early as he can, Mitchell, because on a short track like this, with how strong that high line is and how difficult it might be to pass, Greg Evans, I'm sure he's going to want to get that good track position.
Yeah, he'll definitely want to try and use the grip and the tires while he's got it, because the longer these runs go on, the harder it can be to pass. Definitely even an advantage at these short tracks that you can get out front, you can set the pace for the run sometimes, and that can be a huge advantage to save tires. He got a little high on exit there, but definitely putting a lot of pressure onto your leader in the number 29.
Yeah, Greg Evans is all over the back bumper of the 29 machine, but Scott Eckridge now all over the back bumper of the number 2 machine. Here comes Evans. Evans gets a strong run coming out of turn number 2, dives to the inside, and we're side by side, and there's contact. The 29 of Wolser really pushed Evans down there, really pinched him down. Evans might have come up the racetrack just a smidgen, but there was definite contact there between the 29 and the 2. Evans had to check up. Fantastic job by your reigning series champion to gather that machine back up. That was almost big for your points leader, Mitchell.
Yeah, and happening at the front of the field, who knows what other cars might have piled into it, but great job hanging into that car off of 4. Just fighting really hard for that lead. I don't know if there was a little contact between the two, but definitely they were on the edge of control there, and number 2 did a great job hanging onto that car.
That is for sure. Remember at the top of the show, we talked about one driver who didn't have a great time in qualifying, was really fast in practice, Mitch Brown. He is so far the biggest mover here tonight, picking up 6 spots. Jordan Harnish, Alan Young joining him in that, picking up the most spots here tonight. You can see him right there, working his way around the racetrack in the 15th position behind Evan Black, the number 92 machine, who is right in front of him. Steve Yenish in the 23 running up there as well in the TampaSUVRentals.com Toyota. But already some good battles happening out there on the racetrack. Just look at this gaggle of cars a little bit further back here, Mitchell. They're side by side, 4 rows deep.
Yeah, there's just not really a hole for any of them to slide into, and they're keeping it too wide here. They're probably going to look to sort that out within a few laps, but definitely good hard racing going on all throughout the field here.
Up at the front of the field, though, Scott Eckridge has run down the number 29 machine of Will Worser. We've seen some dominating performances out of the number 70 of Eckridge so far this season. He's going to try and pick up where he left off in race number 1 of the Sim Speed Shop Wheelman Showdown. Here we go on board with that number 70 machine there in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. While we watch that battle, looks like Tyler Seville, last week's race winner, getting a run on Corey Silva. And I've been extremely impressed with Corey Silva and his runs early on in the season. Got the Jerky Lodge on the hood of that race machine here tonight. Silva has been Mr. Consistency in the first couple of races, but unfortunately, things not exactly going to plan last week for Corey Silva. We mentioned that last week, but unfortunately for him, it just wasn't meant to be at Martinsville and slipped outside of the top 10 for one of the first times this season. Been really impressed with how that orange machine has been running out there. He's going to hold on to the 4th position here for now, hold off last week's race winner of Tyler Seville, and he's going to have his sights set on the number 2 of Greg Evans here, Mitchell.
Yeah, definitely putting up a good fight there. I'm noticing a lot of the drivers, when they're running single file, they're favoring that bottom line, but as soon as somebody gets close to their bumper, they're kind of moving up and defending that second line. So I think definitely they're noticing the speed that high line has when you get too wide, but I think they're finding a lot more speed down on the bottom here running single file, Peter.
Yeah, and that's just going to make it really frustrating. I know as a sim racer myself, you, Mitchell, as well, when you can run that low line and you know you're faster than the car in front of you, when that car drifts up on kind of to the top side of the racetrack, and it makes it so difficult to pass, especially here at Richmond, where you need a lot of room to try and make the pass up off the corner, especially out of turn number 2, because if we can go on board with one of these cars here, you will see, folks, that it feels like the entire racetrack just goes into a funnel coming out of turn number 2 when you're a race car. The racetrack just flattens out. You can see it gets very flat right there. You lose all the grip that you're getting from the provided banking. And so if you're side by side coming out of turn number 2, Mitchell, you just don't have that opportunity to carry that momentum down the back stretch off into turn number 3. So sometimes you can make up ground in turn number 3 and 4, and you can give it all away in turn number 2.
It just takes one bad turn to lose a lot of time here, especially at a short track like this. And when you're running with someone and you catch up to them, you can move to the inside, but a lot of drivers, I'm noticing, kind of like to run maybe a little higher up in the middle and arc it back down because they want to get the car as straight as they can when they exit. But when you have a car on top of you like that, you can't really move up as much in the middle, and that really limits the speed that that bottom line has. So I watch, especially as the race toward the front is starting to tighten up, definitely watch them protecting that outside lane or seeing maybe they'll give it away if they really think that inside lane has something.
So up at the front of the field, you said it, there goes the number 29 machine of Warsler. He goes up a lane and a half, and he's going to fend off another charge from Scott Eckrich. Big wiggle out of the back of the number 84 Alliance RV Ford Mustang of Woody Mahan that last time by coming out of turn number 4. He was able to corral it, keep it in check, and not lose all too much ground on Thomas George in front of him in the number 88 machine. But AJ Digby just inside the top 10, who has had a pretty darn good start to the season in his high flow number 14 machine. Once again here tonight inside the top 10. Jeff Yenish, Steve Yenish, the Yenish brothers running together 11th and 12th. Troy Haight in 13th, then Evan Black, Jackson Van Volkenberg. But then you have Michael Krobach in 16th position. That HPPSimulation.com Ford faring a lot better than his Loud Pedal Motorsports teammate of Brian Yazik, who granted has picked up a good number of spots since the start of the race. Make that 8 for the number 55 machine. You can see the number 72 of Krobach there running right in front of Grant Brown. But definitely the Loud Pedal Motorsports machines of the 55 and the 72 trying to pick up speed from where they started here tonight. And, you know, one thing we mentioned, Mitchell, is the fact that some drivers are out there probably saving tires at this point in the run. I know I probably would be. But as this run goes on, we'll probably start to see some comers and goers, some of those drivers a little bit further back in the pack trying to save their stuff.
And I think if you look kind of inside the top 10, you can see the front 5 or 6 drivers have kind of started to pull away. Now, that could be because those drivers in the back half of the top 10 might be saving a little bit of their stuff for a longer run here, because we've gotten quite a few green flag laps in already in this run. They can definitely maintain that lead up front, but if that kind of second group of cars is doing a good job saving their tires, you could start to see them running down the front pack after these laps start to click off.
Rain, a past series champion, Mitch Brown, just had an extended stay on pit road. No, he did not just go to the extended stay next to the racetrack. He was on pit road and has lost 5 laps to the race leader. There he is. I believe there was some connection issues on the number 36 machine. I think he's got those connection issues sorted out. Back out there on the racetrack now, but 5 laps here, Mitchell. He's going to have to get a lot of lucky dogs and need a lot of caution flags to be back in contention here tonight. Tough break for Mitch.
Yeah, connection issues, it's something you can't really do anything about, and it just kind of happens. It really is frustrating when you come into a race and you really get excited to race, and then just something you can't control happens to take you out of the running early. And 5 laps is a lot to make up. Definitely going to need some help with that throughout this race.
Look at this great battle that's happening just on the back half of the top 10. Woody Mahan, Doug Mullins. Mullins in the number 18 wine machine. He is doing all he can to try and hold on to that spot from Woody Mahan. Mullins running the high line, and then he's got a huge line of cars behind him. That's AJ Digby now trying to get underneath him. Mahan almost able to clear the number 18, but Mullins comes roaring back on the high line with all that momentum that he got up there. We'll see if Mahan can pull off the pass coming out of turn number 2. No, he can't. They get tight once again. This is a fantastic battle. This goes all the way back from the 8th place machine, who appears to now be Woody Mahan, back to the number 72 of Michael Krobach in 16th. And then they have a small gap back to the next battle back behind them on the racetrack. But great to see some side-by-side action here and a little bit of patience here, Mitchell. It took a couple of laps for that pass to finally happen, but props to Woody Mahan there for sticking it out and now being scored in 8th.
Yeah, a lot of just being patient, waiting for the run to come to him. Was side-by-side for several laps, and there's still some drivers in that pack fighting it out, but saw the inside and the outside. Really, they were able to keep pace with each other, so I don't think one of them had a huge advantage. I think we saw the outside line prevail like it could. It's been doing for the most part, but definitely some fight in both those cars there.
Yeah, absolutely, and it seems like Mullins continues to be under fire. We look back up at the front of the field here briefly, as that 3-car battle for the race lead hasn't really cooled off. It hasn't really gotten red hot either. Worcester still able to hold on. We've seen Worcester good on these tracks as well, especially Richmond, Phoenix. We saw him really good at Phoenix earlier this season, and a lot of people say that Richmond races a lot like Phoenix International Raceway. So that's probably why we see the number 29 machine having such a strong run right now. Doug Mullins in the number 18 machine. You see him right there, just made contact with the outside wall going off into turn number 3. He's now about to lose a spot to, was about to lose a spot to his teammate there, the number 14 of AJ Digby. Digby now being scored in 12th. Evan Black in the number 92. I'm impressed with that race machine. He has picked up 9 spots from the start. Doug Mullins in the wine machine in the inside wall. Caution flag right in front of Grant Brown, and picks up Alan Young in the 24 machine, who has been having such a rotten season here in the Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series. Has not been going the way Alan Young was hoping. Here getting involved in another accident. Caution flag out for the 2nd time here tonight, Mitchell.
Yeah, just the same thing I think we saw earlier. Just got up off the corner and really just struggled to get the rear end to grip. I think he thought he had it and then just got down the straightaway a little bit and went around it. Unfortunately, in that one, it collected a lot more cars with it, like kind of our single car incidents we saw earlier in the race.
Yeah, it looks like Brian Yazik might have got a piece of that. I think Jonathan Cadell also got a piece of it in the Extreme Sim Racing number 96 machine, Mr. Steelhorse Live himself. And oh man, that was a heavy hit for a couple of drivers. Alan Young really torn up. Here we go on board with Mullins. Look at him sawing on the wheel, trying to keep that car straight. Just got a little bit behind it, Mitchell, and you and I, we've both been there. We know what that's like to get a little bit behind on the steering inputs, and at that point you're just along for the ride.
Yeah, once that car kind of decides to go around, there's not a whole lot you can do to save it. And he put up a great fight, you can see from that in-car camera, to try and keep a hold of it just a little bit more than he had in it to save that thing. And it's unfortunate for all the cars behind it, as you can see, just nowhere to go when that happens. Richmond's not a super wide track, and so just not really any place to go for a lot of those cars behind it.
Yeah, when we go to Dover, we typically call the backstretch Pinball Alley. Well, backstretch here at Richmond is very similar to what we see at Dover. You see cars get thrown off that inside wall straight up into the racetrack, and unfortunately, right there was the 00 of Grant Brown and Alan Young. And look at the 55 here, Brian Yazik, just getting into the back of the number 24 machine. Look at last night's race winner here in the American Sim Racing Series, Grand National Series. Nick Curling there with the number 10 machine there, just scooting by on the inside of the racetrack as well. Great job by the number 10 to avoid that one. Let's see if we can get this one from Mr. Curling's onboard here. Let's bring it back full speed. As you see, you're not missing anything out there on the racetrack. Or you did see some pit stops. We'll cover that here in just a moment. There's all the smoke. Sees the car going back up the racetrack. In fact, with all the smoke, Mitchell, of course, that's one thing that iRacing has really been working on and has added a lot more smoke here recently. Some of those drivers out there, really tough to see through that smoke and see those incidents happen.
Yeah, and when you've got a car shooting across the racetrack and you know it's there, you just don't know where it is. That's a scary feeling, but great driving by him to just kind of anticipate where the cars would be wrecking and find a way through it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as you can see up at the front of the field, Scott Eckridge in the number 70 elected to stay out and has inherited the race lead. Rhett McBride, Steve Yenish, AJ Digby, Jeff Yenish, Michael Krobach also electing to stay out with Johnny Avila in the number 63. So the top 7 cars, folks, did not pit under this caution. Back behind them, Will Worsler, who's in 8th on back, did come down pit road. So Worsler won the race off pit road. Evans second, Corey Silva, Thomas George, and Tyler Seville in the fray as well back there, kind of now in the back half of the top 10. As you can see, we appear to be doubling them up here for the restart. Pace truck lights are off. And how about some more green flag racing, Mitchell?
Definitely looking forward to it. We saw a lot of great side-by-side racing in that run, and these cars up front, it's going to be interesting to see because I've been in races here at Richmond where after 20 or 30 laps, my tires still could keep pace with some fresh tires. So definitely looking forward to seeing what these guys can do as the green flag's back out, Peter.
Yeah, big spin of the tires by Rhett McBride. I was a bit afraid of the old tires on these cars just having a little bit of wheel spin. We saw that there out of the number 15 machine, who's on the inside of AJ Digby. That Matt Black number 15 VRS Direct Force Pro Chevrolet Camaro has been very, very fast since joining the Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series, but a big wiggle there coming out of turn number 4. And look who's already creeping up into the picture. That's Will Worsler here. Mitchell, he's gone from 8th on the restart. He's already up to 4th, but now he's a little bit boxed in by the 2 cars in front of him.
He's got 2 cars in front of him. Not really much he can do to get through them there, just kind of waiting for a hole to open up, but he's been putting that car wherever he needs to go. As you see the 94 getting a great run out of that corner too. Looking down into turn 1, they're kind of stuck behind these 2 cars until one of them can clear the other, and then they're probably going to go charging for that race lead.
Yeah, and of course, they just got to be patient at this point, Mitchell. They know they're on fresher tires. They know they're fast. How about this 4 wide? You don't see that very often on 3 wide TV, especially not on a short track. But for a moment here, we were 4 wide. We're still 3 wide going off into turn number 1. Thomas George on the inside, Woody Mahan in the middle, and the pole sitter, the 29 machine of Will Worsler, had to check up. He knew that was a bad idea to be up there on the high slide. Checked up, and he's going to lose a ton of track position now, all the way back to almost outside the top 10 as some of the cars on fresh tires using that inside groove to get around him. But up at the front of the field, Corey Silva has all but caught the number 70 machine of Scott Eckridge, and we have a new race leader.
Yeah, once those new tires catch you, didn't look like there was much that 70 can do. Definitely struggling compared to those new tires. I had thought maybe that there would be a little more pace in the older rubber there, but definitely looks like new tires going to have a big advantage here.
Yeah, that is definitely the case. Corey Silva trying to check out at the front of the field. Greg Evans there able to get up into 2nd. Eckridge still holding on to 3rd, but look at this huge mess of cars back in the pack. A couple of these cars up the front of this group are on the older tires, like that green number, let's see, that is Johnny Avila, number 63 machine. I do apologize. And then, wow, look at the number 1 machine there of Jason Stewart. He's boxed in behind Avila. This is looking a little bit sketchy here, Mitchell. I know these drivers are being patient, but we got a couple drivers on older tires. They're sliding back through the field, and just a huge wad of cars altogether.
Yeah, we're definitely being treated to some great racing to watch here tonight. As these guys, every restart it seems like is kind of a little bit farther in the pack. They've been side by side as they're still 3 wide out of turn 2. Definitely the mix is the new tires versus the old tires. Some guys are slower, and you don't always know who's on old tires and who's on new tires. So you can get those new tires kind of slowing up a little bit earlier, and the new tires go in there, and it can create a lot of chaos like we're seeing right now, but it's also a lot of fun for us to be watching up here.
Yeah, I gotta say, these drivers right here putting on an absolute show for the fans. 2x2x2. We've seen 3 wide. We've even seen 4 wide here over the last 10 laps here at Richmond. You just don't see this at this racetrack. I know iRacing has reworked this track, Mitchell. They've tried to give more grip to the higher grooves, make it less of a one-lane racetrack, and I think we're seeing that. I think we're seeing that these drivers have the ability to now race with one another, be patient, like what we typically see at Iowa Speedway, which has been kind of a 2-lane racetrack. But meanwhile, they're wrecking in the back. I think Jackson Van Valkenburg in the number 12 machine was involved, and one of the Yenishes, Steve Yenish, the number 89 machine, has gone around. Caution flag back in the air, Mitchell. Another one to break down here on 3 Wide TV as we just made it past the quarter mark of tonight's Sim Speed Shop Wheelman Showdown. Let's catch this 3 Wide TV replay and see if we can sort it all out. Here we are coming off into turn number 1 and 2. Jackson Van Valkenburg right in front of the number 89 machine. Now, I thought I saw Avila. Oh, Avila and Blatel had contact, and unfortunately, wrong place, wrong time for the number 89 machine there, Mitchell. It just seemed like he was an innocent bystander who just kind of got into the mess of the cars in front of him.
Yeah, just kind of nowhere to go. We've seen that a few times. And it's like we said, when something happens in front of you, there's not a lot of places to go. It's just nowhere for that car to go. Just tried to get it turned down, but there was already a car down there. It's just unfortunate, wrong place at the wrong time.
And of course, remember that these drivers do have incident points in play here tonight. So that is something that we're already thinking about. Some of these drivers might have been involved in more than one accident, and if they have been involved in more than one accident, they might already be getting close to that halfway mark towards 18 incident points in the event. And if they reach that 18 incident points, it's an immediate black flag, and we haven't seen that out of anyone just yet, but folks, we will be keeping our eyes on it here tonight. Alan Young in the 24 Young Gun Creations machine will be picking up the lucky dog. He was being scored 4 laps down. Make that 3 laps down. We see a couple of those cars who stayed out under the last pit stop. They just worked their way down pit road. Scott Eckrich back there, amongst a couple of others, just working their way back out onto the racing surface. Let's see. We got Eckrich, Rhett McBride, Adam Jersky, the Beef Jersky's Cheesecakes number 69 machine just pitted. Michael Krobach, AJ Digby, Johnny Avila, Brian Yazik, John Eckhart, Jackson Van Valkenburg, Jeff Yenish. I think some of those cars kind of towards the back of that list, Mitchell, were probably coming down pit road to get some of their damage repaired. But nonetheless, those drivers who stayed out under that last caution, don't think it's going to work out for them quite like they were hoping to with that 10-15 lap run there.
No, I don't think that's quite what they'd imagined, but they're probably also not disappointed to be able to come in and get some fresh tires, and who knows if that might give them advantage if 10 or 15 laps, like we said there in that run, is enough to give the tires a little bit of an advantage. And really, they're just kind of looking to be a little bit higher than they started, and I think if this run can go a little bit longer, it'll be interesting to see if those tires have any advantage. But if you get stuck behind that 2 wide racing like we saw, that can be a difficult spot, and there's not a lot of places to go and make passes, so it's definitely tricky to see, and I'm looking forward to seeing those guys try and do it again.
Yeah, I mean, just think what happened to Will Worsler. He was the first car on fresh tires on that last restart. He restarted in 8th. He's currently being scored in 8th. He got boxed in. He could not make a move, and ultimately ended up losing quite a bit of track position when everything was all said and done. So those drivers who just came down pit road, Scott Eckrich will be restarting 21st. Rhett McBride 22nd, Adam Jersky in 23rd. We'll keep an eye on them to charge their way up through the field when we go back green here very shortly. But just like I mentioned, just over the quarterway mark here in the Sim Speed Shop Wheelman Showdown Richmond 200. I posted a link in the description, folks, if you want to click on that to go look at the Sim Speed Shop website. I love looking at their website. They have some really, really cool trinkets, folks. If you're into sim racing, you want to add something to your sim rig, maybe you're in the market for a new steering wheel, well, go to Sim Speed Shop because they have full dashboards for a lot of the different... whoa. There's some checkups going on the backstretch I just saw out the corner of my eye. But go check out Sim Speed Shop. Great, super cool product. add one of their dashes to your sim setup. Meanwhile, green flag back out there on the racetrack, and the number 2 machine, Greg Evans, trying to do battle with Corey Silva, and looks like the number 2 will take away the race lead here going off into turn number 1. Mitchell, a little bit of a change up at the front of the field.
They really got that car to go through turns 1 and 2, and now he's just kind of looking to settle in that lead and keep that 94 behind him. And I'm watching they're single filed out a little bit behind him. You go back to about 5th place, and there's a little challenge, but really these drivers kind of settled it down a lot quicker on this restart. I think they've been in some bad positions, some of them have, on these restarts, and so they're really being patient. Do see a challenge there with the 28 looking for 5th place on the 88 of Thomas George, not quite getting it done on the inside though.
Yeah, and just kind of keeping my eyes on the side-by-side battles. Nick Curling, last night's race winner here in the American Sim Racing Series, battling with the number 5 of Braxton DeWeese. Braxton started way back in the pack here tonight. He was one of those drivers who did not put a lap time in the qualifying session, started in 32nd. He has worked his way now up almost inside the top 10, battling with the number 10 machine of Nick Curling to try and pick up that spot. There you see the Blaze Designs, number 5 machine working his way through turn number 1 and 2. You see the Curling Design Lab. So a couple of the design machines battling it out here on the racetrack. And look at the number 96 machine, Mr. Steelhorse Live himself right there. Go check out his Twitch channel. He is running just outside the top 10. We saw him with a stellar run at Phoenix, and I mentioned earlier in the race how this racetrack tends to race a little bit like Phoenix. We'll see if he can make a charge up to the front of the field. Meanwhile, one driver I'm keeping my eye on is the number 70 machine. Just on the right-hand side of your screen here, Mitchell, that is Scott Eckrich, one of the drivers who just peeled off pit road a couple laps ago. He worked himself from 21st up to 13th in just a handful of laps. Now, knocking on the door of Braxton DeWeese, so he's up to 11th now. Very impressive.
Definitely charged very quickly through the field. Those new tires might be working out really well for him, and that can be something he might not have wanted. A caution, he might have wanted to see the run the old tires out, but I think he's definitely been put in a good position. He's challenging for the top 10 now, so definitely a lot of speed in that 70 car to keep an eye on. But he's got a, like we said again earlier, he's got 2 cars battling in front of him right now. Nowhere really for that 70 to go, so he's kind of stuck right now waiting for a hole to open up for him.
Well, he's just going to make his own hole. He's going to drop to the bottom side, 3 wide off into turn number 1. Jason Stewart in the number 1 machine wisely backs out of it, but just like that, the 70 machine gets a 2 for right there, gets 2 for 1, able to get himself now up inside the top 10. Look at the number 15, Rhett McBride, now trying to slice his way past the number 5 of Braxton DeWeese. So those fresher tires paying off more than I expected for sure here on this short run. I expected that the tires wouldn't have that much difference between them, but Scott Eckrich slicing his way through the field. We know he has a ton of pace, but now he has fresher tires than the leader as caution flag waves here at Richmond. I'll have to hold on to that thought here because there has been a car go around. It appears like the number 43 machine of Richard Fletcher went around, possibly in turn number 1. We'll see whether or not that is indeed the case or not. Running right there on the top side of the racetrack, the number 45 machine right behind him, John Eckhart. Was there contact? Ooh, yes, there was. And 43 machine into the inside wall. He might have just caught Jackson Van Valkenburg as well. And that is going to be a tough break for Van Valkenburg if he picked up the incident point. He's already been involved in an incident or 2 here tonight. Mark Myers also might have got a piece of that incident as well. It doesn't take a whole lot, Mitchell, to get those incident points, and they can add up, especially if you're back here in the hornet's nest, if you will, where, you know, you got cars banging off doors with one another and spinning around, and just like that, you might have, you might be on your last legs at this point.
And there's definitely a few drivers out there I think might be starting to worry about their incidents, as we're not even halfway through this race, but just a little bit of misjudging the corner entry of some drivers, and really that 12 just nowhere to go, like you said, just kind of in the wrong place at the wrong time. We've seen that for a lot of these drivers tonight, not really involved in starting the wreck, but just happened to be there when they happen. That definitely, it adds up throughout the race, and some of them have been in the wrong place for several of them, and my I don't know where those drivers are at, but they might be worrying.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely going to be something to keep our eyes on as the race goes on. Really curious to see how that change is going to play out. Let's see if we can dial up one of the drivers out there on the racetrack right now who is not on pit road, because we did have a decent number of takers here under this caution flag. Let's see if we can talk to driver of the number 94 machine. That is Corey Silva. We'll see if we can get him up here into the 3-wide TV booth. Corey Silva, Peter Stewart, 3-wide TV booth. You got a copy? Well, I'll tell you what, Corey, you're looking pretty good out there in the number 94 machine. You've had some really good runs. Of course, last week at Martinsville was kind of an up-down night. You think you got a shot here tonight?
I mean, compared to the Eckrich and Evans show, if I get P3, that's a win. But anything's possible. I think I got a top 5 car, though, this week.
You definitely have had quite a lot of pace, and you're up there in the point standings to show for it here. Are you keeping your eyes on your relative? Because Scott Eckrich, Rhett McBride, they're on fresher tires. They're only a couple cars back from you. They have about 15-lap fresher tires. Are you a bit surprised to see them charge through the field as fast as they are?
A little bit. I thought it might have taken them about 15, 20 laps longer to get up here. So I'm hoping we get a caution around like lap 110 and we can all fit and equalize out.
Yeah, definitely interesting to see how the tires are wearing here tonight. But Corey, before I let you go, any shout-outs?
All right, now I got nothing for you, but thanks for the broadcast.
All right, Corey, good luck here tonight, and who knows, we might get to talk to you after it's all said and done. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Well, the pacer truck lights have indeed turned off, so we'll let the number 94 of Corey Silva get back to work here on 3Y TV, get the helmet pulled down, the belts tightened, and about to go back under green flag conditions here, Mitchell. So far, so good here tonight. We've seen some really stellar racing out of these Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series drivers.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of great side-by-side racing all throughout the pack, and definitely up front, I think it's been interesting to watch these guys. They've been swapping back and forth, and definitely the new tires. I'm curious to see what cars like that 70 can do on this restart as we go back green.
Green flag back in the air. Greg Evans gets on the loud pedal, able to clear Corey Silva before they head off into turn number 1. Meanwhile, right back behind him, give a big shout out, folks, in the chat to the third place number 92 machine of Evan Black. The reason I say that is because he started all the way back in the 19th position. That is right, picking up 16 positions right now. Not quite the biggest mover. That would be Braxton DeWeese in the number 5 machine. But Evan Black looking really, really strong here tonight at Richmond. Currently sitting on the podium. Thomas George right back behind him. He started in 8th here tonight, running in 4th. Will Worsler, your Midwest Simulations Pole Award winner earlier in the night, running just outside the top 5 in 6th. But I think all eyes are on the number 70 machine of Scott Eckrich. 3 wins to his name so far this season, trying to go to the outside of the number 11 machine of Tyler Seville. Some sparks were flying out the right side of Will Worsler's number 29 as they dove off into turn number 1. Looks like Eckrich, going to pick up the 6th spot from last week's race winner, Tyler Seville, and now looking to try and pick up 5th from the pole sitter here tonight, Mitchell.
Yeah, I've been watching him really since that restart, and he's able to put that car really wherever he wants to. I think he's definitely has more grip than his competition right now. I don't know how long it'll take for those tires to equalize, if they'll even equalize as the long run goes on. But definitely as he's making another pass work on the inside, possibly on that 88, he's definitely being patient. He's not rushing his way up through the field. He's definitely taking his time and making sure to save those fresh tires for a longer run if we get one.
Yeah, that is for sure. He's now got himself up another spot, getting past Thomas George. Now trying to roll the bottom side of the racetrack to get around Evan Black, who we were just talking about in 3rd. You mentioned it. It looks like he can put that number 70 wherever he wants to on the racetrack to gain ground on the cars in front of him. We'll see if that continues. Like you said, the tires might balance out at some point. They might start to plateau, but definitely doesn't look like they're plateauing just yet for the driver of the number 70 of Scott Eckrich as he looks to the inside of the number 92. Not quite able to get around him just yet. We'll look a little bit, I'll look a little bit further back. In fact, almost contact between Nick Curling and Troy Haight. Great job by Nick Curling to get out of the throttle. But Troy Haight came down in front of Nick Curling. There was definitely going to be contact, but great heads-up driving for the number 10 Toyota to get on the brakes a little bit, give a little bit of ground to that machine. Meanwhile, the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, side-by-side battle for third. There is Scott Eckridge trying to make the move on Evan Black, but Evan's trying to hold him off using that high line. We've seen that work a couple times here tonight, Mitchell.
Yeah, Evan Black definitely putting up a good fight on that high line. He got a great run out of turn 4. And it's going to come down to the line. Like you said, we know that 70 has better tires, and he's got a lot of grip, but that high line seems to be preferred. So if Evan Black can really roll that high side, he might be able to hold off the 70 here.
Yeah, if you can just pinch him down enough so that he doesn't get the run off the corner, that's what Evan Black is going to want to do. Now, if Evan Black can't pinch down the number 70 machine, if he gives it enough space like he did right there, that's going to allow Scott Eckridge to make the move just like he did. Move Eckridge now up into third. He'll be all over the back bumper of Corey Silva here in a flash, as that number 70 really rolling the exit of these corners really well. Gets a launch down the front straightaway. I thought he was going to have a peek to the inside of Corey Silva, just a little bit too far back. But look at him, Mitchell. He's right down there on the yellow line. 94, Silva up about half a lane, and Eckridge already with a run coming out of turn number 2.
He's just really able to get the throttle down on exit, and you're going to see him maybe clear. Yeah, looks like he clears that 94, setting his sights on the race leader now. He's just able to get better drive off the corners than I think anybody else up front here. Really, and that's giving him a lot more speed down the straightaways. He's definitely taken advantage of it so far.
Yeah, this is definitely a racetrack that you almost have to race like a road course, Mitchell, because as you go through the corner, you really have to focus on hitting that late apex to get the drive up off the corner. We see a lot of drivers do it. Look, that's what Greg Evans is doing. He's entering the corner a little bit higher in the 2 machine and then trying to get it down to the bottom side to hit that late apex, get the drive up off the corner. That does 2 things really for you. 1, you're going to be faster down the straightaway. And 2, you're going to save your rear tires having that shallower exit. With the way this racetrack falls off, especially coming out of turn number 2, you can see just how flat it gets in a hurry when you get kind of a good angle. There you see it. If your car is still rolled over on that right-hand side and you don't kind of square up that exit of the corner, if you still got a lot of wheel in it, you're going to be putting a lot of weight on the right-hand side, which means you don't have the left and right-hand tires balanced equally. And if you don't have them balanced equally, it just means you're not able to get the power down. You're not able to get all the grip in those tires that you want equally on the back end. And it can lead to a premature spin out of the corner. And I think that's what the number 2 machine of Evans is trying to do. So he's trying to save some tires, but now he's got the number 70 of Eckridge all over his back bumper. The battle for the race lead is red hot. We look a little bit further back there for just a quick second between the 88 and the number 29 machine. That is a battle for the 6th position between George and Worsler, but let's focus on Scott Eckridge right now, the winner of 3 races this season, trying to do battle with winner of 4 races this season. And looks like Scott Eckridge is going to send it off into turn number 1. Just send it there, Mitchell. Drives up the racetrack, and here comes Evans right back, trying to take that race lead right back from Scott.
Yeah, Scott Eckridge, he really threw it into that corner, but couldn't quite block that number 2, and he got a run back, but now we see that 70 up on the high line, and the 2 of Greg Evans is going to give him that spot. I think he realizes he's faster. Those tires are really working for him right now, but it's kind of like you said, with all the road course, it's all about the braking technique of some of these drivers to really get that car turned off, and some drivers, just very similar to a road course, excel at using those brakes to get the car through the corner more than others, and that definitely can really help you out on a short track, maybe more than you would see on a normal 1.5 miles here in these cars. And definitely the drivers who can master kind of the brakes get the advantage, and it just kind of lets you turn the car off. But
yeah, and this is such a unique racetrack. You talk about the brakes. If we just focus on one of these drivers for right now, let's just say like the number 5 machine of Braxton Louise, he is right now in the middle of turn number 1 and 2. it doesn't feel like you're in the middle of turn number 1 and 2 at that point. Turn number 1 feels like it almost starts immediately after the start-finish line. You start preparing for entry at this particular racetrack so early. There's no other racetrack, as we're on board with Luis right here. It feels like turn number 1 starts way back. We'll kind of give you a feel for it next time by as we continue to ride on board with the number 5 machine. But just like Phoenix, where you're using a lot of brake, trying to get that car rotated through the corner, that's what you have to do at this racetrack. You have to manage your braking. This is about, to me, where turn 1 starts right now. And this is where kind of geometrically turn 1 starts. So this racetrack, you're prepping for, especially turn number 1 with that long curve entry, Mitchell. It just lends itself to balancing your brake usage, managing the weight transfer of the race car, much like you do on a lot of road courses, but here on a 3/4 mile short track.
Yeah, and another really skill these drivers have to keep on top of is sometimes where your braking changes over the course of a run. As the tires get older, you're going to start backing up the corner more, and it's not going to want to get through the corner quite the same way it did when those tires were a little bit fresher. So you've really got to kind of just pay attention to what the car's wanting to do and use that technique we talked about. They're definitely getting off way before that corner starts to set themselves up. Like we've been seeing a lot, it's all about that drive off and how much speed you can get on the straightaways. And usually we see when drivers back that corner up more, they can usually get a little more rotation in the center, and that can set them up for a great run off that corner.
One driver I've been keeping my eyes on was your Midwest Simulations Pole Award winner. Will Worcester has slid back to the 10th position and appears to continue to lose spots as Tyler Seville, his teammate in the Arch Telecom number 11, just made the move to get up inside the top 10, as we are now halfway here in the Sim Speed Shop Richmond 200, race number 2 of the Sim Speed Shop Wheelman Showdown. We will have race number 3 of the Sim Speed Shop Wheelman Showdown next week, Talladega, Alabama. Mitchell, love to see these Cup cars on the high banks, on the super speedways. It's going to be a lot of fun next week for race number 3 of the Sim Speed Shop Wheelman Showdown.
Yeah, I always love going to Talladega. It always puts on a great race. It's quite a change from a short track at Richmond to the high banks at Talladega. Like you said, it's a completely different style of racing than what these guys are doing tonight. It's just so much different to go from one track, 1 week running a short track to the next, running over 200 miles an hour at Talladega. It's quite an adjustment. It's a lot of fun to watch these guys do at both racetracks.
That is for sure. You see a couple of these cars going around the slower car. That is a heavily damaged 00 machine of Grant Brown. There's the number 27 machine. Jordan Harnish trying to get around him. Hasn't quite been the night the number 27 machine has been hoping for. We've seen a lot of pace out of Jordan Harnish this season. He's just trying to put together an entire race, however, in that Beef Jersey's Cheesecake Emporium 27 machine. He just had a lot of pace, but hasn't been able to see out the finish where he is deserved in these races. So here tonight being scored in the 14th spot right now, right behind last night's race winner, the number 10 machine of Nick Curling, who's locked in a battle with Braxton DeWeese. There you see Jordan Harnish following the number 10 as well. Man, the number 10 machine had a big slide coming out of turn number 2. This is probably that point in the run, Mitchell, where these rear tires are probably screaming, and these drivers are probably going to be sliding around quite a bit.
I think this is where we're really going to start to see whoever was patient kind of save their tires up early in this run, start to get a little bit faster. You can see a great battle now between the 27 and the 5. Saw the 5, I think he just got a little squirrely off turn 2 a few laps ago, and that opened the door for that 27. And right now he's taking advantage of it, going to clear the 5 on the front straightaway.
Yeah, that is definitely a good pass. Meanwhile, back up at the front of the field, you're not missing a whole lot because Scott Eckrich has been able to put about 1.5 seconds on Greg Evans. In fact, he just put the number 18 machine a lap down. So Doug Mullins in the Wine Chevrolet, one of those Will Worcester Racing cars, got heavily involved in an accident just a little while ago. He's now back in 32nd position. Greg Evans still running in second. In third spot is still Evan Black. Great job by Evan Black to continue to hold on to that third position. He was able to get around Corey Silva a couple laps ago. The number 94 machine sliding back a little bit. In fact, he's locked in a battle with Steve Yenish in the Tampa SUVRentals.com machine. We're also looking back here. I think that's the number 96, Jonathan Cadell, locked in a battle with Troy Haight. That is a battle around the 14th position last time I looked, where Jonathan, oh, we got a wreck on the back stretch involving Jonathan Cadell. And oh, we got cars continuing to pile in. That is a big, big accident on our backstretch here. Caution flag back in the air.
Yeah, just looked like a little bit of a stack up coming off that turn. They were racing really hard back there, and I know I had just looked back there too. Let's see what happened on the replay. Looks like there may have been a little contact. I don't know, maybe a little net code. The 96 just kind of seemed to go right into the wall. That was a really kind of a strange accident.
Yeah, that's one where we might have to go into our 3-wide TV super slow-mo to see if we can figure that one out, because Cadell coming out of the corner, I'm just kind of watching his steering wheel inputs, and you know, I think he just got late wheel spin there on the backstretch. Some really, really late wheel spin. I didn't see a whole lot out of his wheel. He kept the wheel straight, and just seemed like he got on the straightaway, got some late wheel spin, which with this high horsepower package you can get. It's pretty rare, and unfortunately got a couple of drivers involved in that one as well with it.
Yeah, it's not something you see very often. Just kind of you feel like you've got the car off the corner, and then all of a sudden it just starts to spin and it can catch you off guard, and I think that's kind of what happened. And just nowhere for a lot of those drivers to go. Once again, we keep seeing it throughout this race. It's just a lot of drivers just being in the wrong spot when a wreck happens and not really anywhere to go, as we see big contact for a lot of those drivers. That's going to damage a lot of race cars here, Peter.
Yeah, and pretty much every go on board with him right here in the Dirty Bird Sim Racing #1 machine. Very hard to miss that race car here tonight. Bright yellow, bright red, but unfortunately unable to miss that accident that just happened in front of him, and that puts us back under the caution flag. Just looking right now, seeing who elected to stay out. One driver, the number 63 machine, Johnny Avila, in his kind of yellow and black Chevrolet. He'll be your race leader. Scott Eckrich coming off pit road behind him. In the number 70 machine, he was the first one off pit road. Looks like the 24 machine of Alan Young's coming down pit road. Avila continues to stay out here. And this is going to be an interesting call here, Mitchell. I'm wondering if Avila saw what the number 70 of Eckrich did, waited to come down pit road, and oh no, we're just getting word. Johnny Avila is short by a set of tires. So, Mitchell, we talked about it earlier in the race. We saw that happen with Pete Baskins, who ultimately did retire the number 39 machine, where we talked about him using a set of tires there in the first 20 laps. Well, Johnny Avila must have used a set of tires accidentally at some point in the race, because he says he's just going to stay on the low line and let the other people go by.
Yeah, and especially in a race where we've seen the importance of tires tonight, even after just 10 laps, tires making a big difference in the amount of speed these cars have. So that's definitely going to be a big mistake. And, you know, he's just trying to hang on to it at this point. It's definitely going to be a rough run here for that 63 car. Definitely, you know, it's very respectful move if he's staying low. That definitely, he realizes he's not going to be up to the pace that these leaders have, and just kind of hanging in there and doing whatever he can. But you like to see that courtesy out there on the racetrack.
Yeah, the big question is how is he going to be able to keep it down there on the bottom side of the racetrack and stay below that yellow line, because there's not a lot of grip down there. There's a lot of marbles, very flat portion of the racetrack. He's probably going to want to try and get to that high line as quick as he can. As soon as he can get back on the racing surface and get up to the top side of the racetrack and let some of the cars go by underneath him. I think that's what Avila's going to try and do. But meanwhile, we'll have to see how it all plays out. Avila's early on the loud pedal. Good move by the number 63 machine to just try and get to the line as quick as he can, but now is when those older tires are really going to start to scream. Look at them stacking up behind him. Almost contact between the two of Evans and the 92 of Evan Black. And look at that. Evans is boxed in. We're 3 wide, a little bit further back. 70 of Eckridge setting sail up at the front of the field. But look at Avila just bleeding positions right now.
Yeah, it's a lot of great driving, though. We've seen guys keeping it out of each other. They're really just staying aware of what's going on with that 63, and he's done a great job keeping it low. And we've seen a lot of 3 wide because of it, but he's definitely doing a great job doing what he said. He like we said, he knows he's going to be off pace because of those older tires, and he's doing a great job just kind of staying out of the way. So we see the 73 get a little bit loose in front of him there, but definitely kind of what we expected to see as we're looking back up front. Looks like that 70's really stretched out the race lead here over the 92 of Evan Black.
Yeah, and how about Evan Black? We've highlighted that he started 19th here tonight, plus 17 spots. Corey Silva now back up to 3rd. Greg Evans, though, all over the back bumper, the number 94. Looks like Silva going to be able to hold on to that position for now, but caution flag back in the air. Brett McBride, the number 15 machine, must have had a moment in turn number 4. We'll see what happened on the 3 wide TV replay, but unfortunately the VRS Direct Force Pro Chevrolet definitely going for a big slide in turn number 4. There he is trying to get caught back up to the field. Let's see if there was any contact to bring out this caution. There he is on the top side, 3 wide, and Mitchell, I don't know if he knew he was 3 wide. He might have only known that he had the number 1 machine to his inside, wasn't aware that I think the 43 it was of Richard Fletcher was down there on the inside. Looks like he might have just come down to make that contact.
Yeah, I think the 43 just made a late dive into that corner, had a run, just took it to the inside, and I don't think the 15 knew he was there. That was a position where I think he just thought he was too wide with that one, and not the spotter not quite calling that one quick enough for him, and they made some contact.
Yep, so caution flag back in the air. Scott Eckridge is your race leader. Let's see if we can drag in one of these other drivers. Let's see if we can get one of the other DM Motorsports machine. We already talked to Corey Silva here tonight. Let's see if we can get the number 92 of Evan Black, because he has had quite the rise from 19th place on the grid. Evan Black, Peter Short, 3 wide TV booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, I got you guys.
I'll tell you what, Devin, it has been quite a charge for you here tonight in that number 92 machine. Definitely having quite a bit of pace. We didn't see a lot of pace from you in practice or in the qualifying session, let's be honest. But here in the race, it seems like you've really come alive. Tell us about it.
Yeah, here at Richmond, I've always just kind of never had good qualifying speed. Don't know why, but just whenever it comes to the race, I've always had really good long run speed and just saving my tires and stuff. I've got a few things figured out here, especially through 3 and 4, that a few of these other guys don't. I definitely don't think I have anything for Eckridge or Evans, but at this point, with how bad of a season I've had, I'll just take a top 5 or top 10 at this point and just take it and run the next week.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything out there here tonight that maybe you've learned about the different strategies, primarily the different tire strategies that we have seen in play here over the last 60 or so laps?
Yeah, this is kind of the first time I've really had an opportunity to be up in contention where tire strategy actually kind of matters. I know Eckridge made a call early on to stay out and then hit 15-20 laps later, and he got by all of us, but now we're all pretty much on a kind of equal playing field, so it's just going to depend on, really, we can't pit for another probably 40 or 50 laps if there's more cautions, because tires are so important here. If you don't have a set and everyone else does, and caution comes out with 20 laps to go, you're screwed. So it's just going to be trying to save that last set of tires for as late as you can, but also we just really don't know when the next cautions are going to come out, so it's going to be a gamble, that's for sure.
Yeah, how's the racing been out there here tonight? I know we saw a lot of yellow last week, but it seems like there's been some really good hard racing here tonight.
Yeah, it's been really good up here. Coming back from 19th and then getting up through the field, I was able to make quite a few passes. I really like how the track is driving right now. You can kind of run both lanes a little bit. So I'll be curious to see what ends up happening here as the race continues, and hopefully rubber's up a little bit more. I want to see that top come in just a little bit more than what it has been, but it'll be exciting for sure. All
right, well, the pace truck lights are off, so you know what that means We will be back green here very shortly. Best of luck there.
All right, thanks.
All right, well, that is going to do it with driver of the number 92, Evan Black. We'll let him get back to it, Mitchell, but he's liking what he's seeing from the race seat. We like what we're seeing from up here in the booth.
Yeah, I definitely think he talked about what we've been talking about of the importance of the tire strategy, especially when we get into the later parts of this race. We saw it with the 63 on that last restart. Just didn't have the tires to take and definitely lost a lot of track position because of his. We're getting ready to go green again.
Absolutely. Green flag back in the air. Scott Eckridge on the loud pedal early. He's going to quickly clear the number 92 of Evan Black, who we just talked to, but now he's going to have to fend off the number 2 machine right back behind him. His teammate Corey Silva in the number 94 machine battling with the number 29 machine of Will Worsler, who's made a good recovery back up there towards the top 4 in that 29 machine. He was as far back as 10th. As big slide out of the back of the number 92. Great job of corralling it. Still trying to hold off that charge on the outside line by Evans, but looks like Evans is going to clear him coming out of turn number 2. Move Evans back into second, and now Evan Black going to have to hold off tonight's Midwest Simulations Pole Award winner from earlier in the show, the 29 of Worsler.
Yeah, a lot of too-wide racing here, and that's the hard part is once one driver gets clear of you or you clear one driver, there's kind of another one there to take it up as the 29 gets a good run off the top. He'll clear, and that 92 will be able to slide back in line. Too wide behind him, though, between the 94 and is that the 55? Yeah, that's still some good battling we see behind them, too. There's still a lot of good battles here going on toward the front of the pack.
And let's make note of that number 55 machine of Brian Yazik, because Yazik started tonight in 29th position. He's picked up 24 positions from the start of the race, and by my math, he is currently the biggest mover, has spotlights on the back of that race machine. And I gotta say, Brian Yazik has a tendency on these short tracks to really pick it up towards the end of the race. We saw that last year in the kind of the all-star race that ended the season. It wasn't necessarily the season finale, it wasn't the points paying season finale, but Brian Yazik picked up that win at the Nashville Fairgrounds in that number 55 machine. So he knows how to get the job done on these short tracks. As Will Worsler there scraping the wall on entry into turn number 1. Not the first time we've seen that happen here tonight. Sparks flying from the right side of that Chevrolet. Yazik is going to clear the number 94 Corey Silva, get up into the 5th position. Really good run for the HPPsimulation.com Ford from the back here tonight. As looking a little bit further back in the pack, Braxton DeWeese trying to make a charge on the number 89 machine. That would, of course, be Jeff of the Yenish brothers. They're side by side coming out of turn number 2. Mitchell.
Yeah, and I think that's something we talked about toward the top of the show. It's 200 laps here at Richmond. That's plenty of time to just be patient, work your way up through the field. We're definitely seeing that with the 55. He hasn't come charging up through the field like we've seen some drivers here, but definitely slowly working his way up, and now we see him up inside the top 5.
Yeah, so we'll see as things tend to calm down a little bit further towards the front. We're keeping an eye on the 04 machine back here. That's Mark Myers in his machine. You look at the 3Y TV multicam, focusing on different portions of the racetrack. The bottom screen is live. We're looking up at a replay on the top of the screen. The 04 machine of Mark Myers going for a slide. And folks, we talk about penalty points at the top of the show. That's what you would call a 1X incident point. So that gives them 1 point, 1 incident point towards their total of 18. Well, that gives Mark Myers 1 incident point, not anyone else. He was the only driver to go off track. You have to go into the grass to get an off track, Mitchell, and we saw that there in the 04 machine. So he's just 1 closer here tonight to that 18 incident point limit. But based on the fact that we've seen so much more green flag racing than what we saw last week, I got to say this has been I think a step in the right direction, and the racing has been absolutely stellar here at the 3/4 mile Richmond Raceway. As the 23 machine of Steve Yenish, big slide there coming out of turn number 4, battling with Corey Silva.
Yeah, and I'm also looking up here at the battle for 3rd, the 29 of Will Worsler getting a lot of pressure now from that 92 of Evan Black, who we were also watching, just talked to over the break. But I look back at that incident with the 04, definitely did a great job hanging on to that car and keeping it out of that infield walls. That's really difficult to do. It's actually, we're looking, seeing that 92 got a run looking under the 29. See if he can clear that. No, they're still going to be too wide down the backstretch. That 92 got a great, or the 29 got a great run. They're going to stay too wide into 3 and 4.
Yeah, the 92 rolling the bottom side of the racetrack. You go on board here on the bottom side of your screen with the number 29 machine of Warsaw. Looks like he's going to back out of it early, going off into turn number 1. Just gives that spot to Evan Black. Says, you know what? You can have it, because he doesn't want to fight for too long. Because look at Brian Yazik, the fifth place number 55 machine, all over his back bumper now. He's going to try and get up to 4th. I'm sure Yazik was not expecting this at the top of the show. He qualified, folks, a 22.153 second lap time. Yazik's lap time was over a half second behind your pole sitter here tonight. I mean, he just did not have any pace in qualifying. Now running up here at the front of the field, inside the top 5, doing a great job. Well, they said he was inside the top 5. He actually just lost the top 5 spot to the number 94 of Corey Silva. But Brian Yazik definitely needs a good night here in the series. He was one of the playoff drivers last year, just hasn't seemed to have the momentum this season in the first 8 races to really mount a charge up towards the front of the field. And, you know, he's definitely very fast. I mean, he's 5th place in points. He's been consistent enough, but just we haven't been mentioning his name a lot here on these broadcasts. So it's great to see him up there in that HPPsimulation.com machine. A little bit further back behind them, it's pretty much all single file, well back in the field. You have to pretty much go to Alan Young, who's multiple laps down, trying to get around Gary Reynolds Jr., the number 13 iHeart Radio machine, for the next side-by-side battle. But Brian Yazik there, able to get that run on the number 29 machine of Worsler, able to clear Worsler, and that has also opened up the door for the number 23 machine of Steve Yenish there, Mitchell.
Yeah, I'm trying to look and see what happened. I think the 29, he got a little, like we said, that middle of the straightaway wheel spin, I think we were talking about, did a great job hanging on to that, but that opened the door for that 55 and the 23, both to get around him there. It definitely, I think he's been hanging on. He's definitely not slow by no means, but I think he's been struggling to keep that car planted in the racetrack getting off, and some drivers have just kind of taken advantage of that. He's really just kind of trying to get back in and find his rhythm as he falls a little bit outside the top 5 now.
Yeah, I had to go back and I took a look at it myself on my screen. And you're exactly right. That's exactly what happened to the number 29 of Will Worcester. So just the same thing that happened to Jonathan Cadell, which caught out driver of the number 96 machine about 40 laps ago or so now. Same thing happened to Will Worcester. That kind of boggles my mind that they get wheel spins so late on the straightaway. I've raced this racetrack quite a bit. Most of the times I've raced here at Richmond, it has been at night. So I wonder if it has something to do with the fact that we are racing during the day. We'll see if we can bring up track temperature there on your screen a little bit. The track temperature, Mitchell, has actually cooled down. We got a little bit of a replay here between the number 17, Kevin Stone, and AJ Digby, and the number 14. They're racing side by side here. Is there a little bit of contact? Ooh, 17 with a big wiggle there. And they were able to get things corralled between them. But Mitchell, the track temperature's cooled off. Remember, it was 113 at the start of the race. You see down there at the very bottom of the graphic. Track temperature now down to only 99 degrees Fahrenheit. So 14 degrees. That's a pretty significant swing here in iRacing.
I think you were talking about the difference between a day race and a night race. When the sun's shining on this racetrack, it's a lot harder and a lot slicker. And I think that is definitely contributing to some of the wheel spin we're seeing. It's just the tires not gripping like they would with maybe a slightly cooler track, although we have cooled down a lot from the start of the race, so that is probably helping these drivers out, but we're still seeing plenty of wheel spin as a lot of them are struggling to keep it under them.
We're closing in on the 50 laps to go mark here in tonight's Sim Speed Shop Wheelman Showdown Richmond 200, race number 2 of the Sim Speed Shop Wheelman Showdown. If you didn't tune in with us back at Atlanta Motor Speedway a couple of weeks ago here on the channel, it was the 6th round of the Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series. And the driver who's leading right now, Scott Eckrich, he went to victory lane in that race. We saw the same thing happen last year with Greg Evans. He went out, and I believe he won the first 2 races of the Sim Speed Shop Wheelman Showdown last year as well. So Scott Eckrich here trying to get 1 foot in the door for that custom-made steering wheel. That is the prize for the Sim Speed Shop Wheelman Showdown. That is, of course, a championship within a championship, with the big prize being the Hacksaw PC trophy, which is a custom-made Hacksaw PC itself for the driver who ends up holding the most points at the end of the year after the playoffs, which always put on a fantastic show. We saw a quick look there of the number 5 machine, Braxton DeWeese. There he is, running right behind the number 89 machine. That is, of course, Jeff Yenish. This is a battle for the top 10. Ooh, man, I think that was Nick Curling there at the top of the screen. I thought he might have just caught the wall, but I don't think he did. The 88 there of Thomas George, he's running in the 12th spot, right behind Rhett McBride, excuse me. Move Rhett McBride to 12th and move the 88 of Thomas George back to 13th. So that 15, remember, Mitchell, he had a big slide probably about 50, 60 laps ago. Now he's starting to make his way back up through the field.
And definitely a good recovery we're seeing from that 15 as they're working through the 72. So, started to see some side-by-side battling there around the 10th position. They've kind of settled it back down again, but I think we noticed a lot of those drivers kind of sliding around, and this is the point where those tires are really starting to not have the grip these drivers want. And so they're doing a great job keeping it together, as we're seeing a battle between that 88 of Thomas George and the 10 of Nick Curling for, I believe, 13th position. They're still too, I think the 10 got the run on the inside. Yeah, he's going to be able to clear out of turn 2, but definitely, I think, mostly single file, because I think they're struggling to find the grip to make those passes. Even if you're faster, it's really hard once you work up on someone to find the chance to get that run and work around him, and I think we're seeing a little bit of that right now here.
Yeah, that is definitely true. I'm over here looking at average lap times. Of course, at this point in the run, your leaders, Greg Evans, Scott Eckrich and company, they now have almost 50 laps on their tires from the last time they were on pit road. So this is when I really like to start looking at average lap times, because at this point you're starting to see drivers who save their tires. One driver who's really sticking out to me right now is Jordan Harnish, driver of the number 27 machine. He's not quite running the lap times of Greg Evans, who is actually the fastest driver over the last 5 laps. He's actually been averaging a little bit faster than Scott Eckrich in the number 70 machine. Just to put it into comparison's sake, Greg Evans has been averaging a 22.943 lap time. Scott Eckrich has been running a 23 flat. So that's about 6/100ths of a second. Doesn't sound like a lot, but if he was able to continue that for the remainder of the race and able to maintain that advantage, Evans would be able to catch Eckrich. In fact, that gap has been closing down. It was about 1.5 seconds. It's now just over 1 second. So Evans is starting to close in just a little bit on Scott Eckrich. The number 27 machine of Jordan Harnish, he's currently running in the 8th position. He just made a pass to get that spot over Tyler Seville in the number 11 machine. So move Harnish up to 8. He's trying to close in on the back of Will Worsler. We have highlighted that Will has really been fast out of the gate here tonight, but it doesn't quite seem like he's got the long run pace in that number 29 machine like a couple of the other drivers. So we might be seeing a battle for the 7th position here brewing relatively quickly. There is Jordan Harnish in the Beef Jerseys Cheesecake Emporium machine, trying to not drop the cheesecake here tonight, Mitchell.
Yeah, I'm looking at him right now, and you're talking about the grip, and he's really able to get the car pointed off as we're looking at another battle between the 5 of Braxton DeWeese. It looks like the 15 and the 89 side by side for 11th place, so kind of battle outside the top 10 starting to heat up here.
And here's Rhett McBride all over the back bumper of Braxton DeWeese. He just made the move on Jeff Yenish to pick up what is the 11th position. So this is the battle for the top 10. See if that number 15 can punch his ticket back into the top 10 drivers in the field as we rapidly now closing in on the end of the race. But caution flag car has gone around in turn number, well, it was turn number 3. I believe it might have been John Eckhart in the number 45 machine. We'll see whether or not that is the case. Was running out there on the racetrack with Adam Bertel in the number 7 machine. And let's see what happened here. The number 7. Is this going to be the same case, Mitchell, of some late straight wheel spin? Looks like it. Gets him into the wall, and the 7 machine comes down and clobbers the number 45 machine. I wonder if the 7 got a little bit of that late straightaway wheel spin we've been seeing. Got him a little bit loose, bounced him up into the wall, and unfortunately straight down into the 45 machine.
That's definitely something we've been seeing drivers deal with. That was, again, really late on. No, I think he might have clipped the wall late on that straightaway, it looked like to me, Peter. What'd you see there?
Yeah, he definitely clipped the wall, but I'm wondering if that might have been a little bit of wheel spin induced or not. That is kind of the big question that I have. But meanwhile, that big question of, remember, of drivers saving their stuff and some comers and goers late in the run, well, it's all going to get thrown away because on the bottom of the screen here, your leaders are on pit road, led by the number 70 machine. You see Will Warser hitting his box, the 2 machine, excuse me, of Craig Evans in his box, Tyler Seville there. So all of your leaders are coming down to get tires. A couple of drivers staying out. Steve Yenish, Rhett McBride, Jeff Yenish, Thomas George, AJ Digby, all staying out right now. So it looks like we're going to have 6 cars on old tires at the front of the field. Make that 5 cars up at the front of the field on old tires. And then Scott Eckrich, Greg Evans, and company, 6th place on back for this upcoming restart. 35 laps to go as it stands right now. These old tires, we've seen them not exactly pay off here tonight. Maybe Steve Yenish is hoping to see a caution flag in 15 laps. We saw that happen earlier, Mitchell. I'm not exactly sure what's kind of going through the head of some of these drivers up at the front, but they're on a different strategy. I like seeing different strategies.
Yeah, you like seeing drivers try something, go making moves for that race win. We've seen the tires be a huge factor tonight, and after as many laps as we just got, I think it's definitely they're out or they're banking on a really quick caution here, but definitely it's a viable strategy. We've seen drivers after 10 laps come in, take tires, and work their way back up to the lead. So if you can get a quick caution here and then come in and take some tires, you could put yourself in a decent spot. And the other thing I'm really looking forward to watching here, Peter, is we've seen those new tires behind the drivers with old tires really kind of, some of them have struggled to work their way through those cars on old tires, and we've seen that shake up the running order. And so really keep an eye on those drivers on new tires and how aggressive they are working through those old tires, because you don't want to get held up behind them too long, or you could find yourself a few positions back from where you started this.
Yeah, that is definitely the case. I'm really curious to know who's going to be able to slice their way through this field. Scott Eckrich, is it going to be Greg Evans? Is it going to be Corey Silva? Is it going to be Evan Black? You said that, you know, trying to deal with some of these cars on older tires has really shuffled up the field. It has. Remember what happened to Will Warser? He went 4 wide, folks. We saw 4 wide at Richmond coming out of turn number 4. You just don't see that. And he had to back off the throttle, and he lost a ton of track position. Will we see something like that here on this restart? The lap counter continues to click away. We're going to have 32 laps to go this time by, and the good news is the pace truck lights have turned off, so it'll be a 32-lap shootout. But Mitchell, I don't think we've seen the last of the caution flag, because as these laps count down, the action always heats up in the American Sim Racing Series Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series. We want to thank each and every one of you for joining us here tonight on 3Y TV. Make sure to hit that like button and hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, because we are about to have one heck of a finish right here. Pace truck heads down pit road. 23 machine of Steve Yenish leads us back to green here, Mitchell.
Yeah, Steve Yenish takes the green flag. That 15 keeping with him, though, on the high side. And they're already 3 wide back. I'm watching about that 92 and the 14. Great battles throughout the field. As the 70, we're looking at him as Oh, there's some contact. The leaders make contact. The 23 around, more contact.
And it is a parking lot in turn number 4. Cars everywhere. I saw the 55 machine of Brian Yazik get involved in that one. Tough break for the HPPsimulation.com Ford, but there was definite contact between the 23 and the number 15, and this is one we're going to have to slow this one down. Jeff Yenish got a piece of it. Thomas George got involved. Corey Silva got a chunk of it. Tyler Seville, last week's race winner, involved in this one. Jordan Harnish in the 27 might have barely squeaked on through. AJ Digby, there you see the 83, the 23, and it's on from there. There's the one machine of Stewart getting involved. Some cars in the back of the pack just barely squeaking their way through. Jonathan Holstein in the 73, Spotted Cow Brand Chevrolet involved. Boy, you're going to have to need about 5 hands to count the number of drivers involved in this one.
There's a lot of the cars we've been watching too. That 55, the 27 involved. Just a little bit of contact up front, and then nowhere for those drivers to go. You see 3 wide into 3, racing really hard to try and work through those cars. And see the 70 and the 2, I believe, squeaked through it. Some of your leaders, but other cars like the 55, that 88, not so lucky to get through that one. And a lot of the cars we've seen running kind of toward the front going to get collected in that, and that'll definitely kind of mix up this battle for top 5 positions late in this one.
Yeah, you saw Braxton DeWeese get a piece of it there. He's the one that's right up against the wall. You see the 10 of Nick Curling. He's just now getting into the back of the 88 machine. Thomas George, who's around. You see some cars at the back half of the field really getting on the brakes. Oh man, the Gunskins.com number 41 machine there, Tim Knott on the right-hand side of your screen. This was crazy. Let's go on board here with the number 55 machine of Brian Yazik. You'll see just how quickly this racetrack all of a sudden is completely blocked for this car. There's the smoke. You see him trying to slow down, and it looked for a quick second there, Mitchell, like the track was just going to open up for him, but just like that, the number 89 machine was coming back up. Excuse me, the number 23 machine was coming straight up the racetrack and into the side of the 55.
Yeah, he did a great job trying to gas it up and get through the high side. They just came up a little bit quicker than he could get through, and that's so unfortunate for a driver we've seen come from kind of farther back in this field, running up in the top 5 and just absolutely nowhere to go as a heartbreaker for that 55.
And I said it was a parking lot in turn number 3 and 4. You see Todd Kirkwood there turning it into a parking lot, getting completely stopped and woed up as to not get any damage on his cars. That's some really good heads-up driving. Look at the number 27 machine. Now, this was actually where I was watching when all the carnage broke down. I was looking at that number 27 machine, and like the iRacing gods are on his side here tonight, because there's a little bit of contact between him and Braxton DeWeese. You see DeWeese getting into the back of the number 27 machine. He breaks loose, has to chase the 27 machine up the racetrack, but I think that was a little bit of a godsend for him, because he was high enough out there that he didn't end up getting any damage. He saved the cheesecake, Mitchell.
As we're watching him get through there, just amazing driving for that 27, judging how slow he needed to get woed up and kind of work through those drivers. Just we talked about a lot of drivers being in the wrong place at the wrong time. You could say he was probably in the right place at the right time to get through that one there, Peter.
Remember, we talked about it really early in the race, Mitchell. I think it was the number 2 machine of Greg Evans who had a big moment and was able to save the car. And we said, oh man, that happened right at the front of the field. What would have happened if he had gone around and you know, spun right at the top half of the field? Well, that's what we just saw, folks. That was a really significant pileup. But meanwhile, while we've been breaking all that down, the green flag is back in the air. 26 laps to go here at Richmond. The lap count continuing to wind away here tonight. You see the cars battling now side by side for second. That's the 92 of Evan Black and the 29 of Will Worser, 2 reverse numbers from one another doing battle. And your Midwest Simulations Pole Award winner here tonight going to get back up into second.
Yeah, we saw in that last run the 29 kind of struggling, kind of falling back through the field just a little bit, puts 4 fresh tires on it, and he's right back up toward the front in second place. And he'll try and run down our leader, that 70, but that 70 has been just on rails all night long. It's been difficult for anybody to touch him, but definitely that 29. I think we've seen a lot of short run pace, and kind of in this last run, he's really got about 20 laps left, trying to just save enough tire to keep that pace up until the end of this race.
Side-by-side battle right now between the number 11 of Tyler Seville and the number 94 of Corey Silva. Oh man, huge wiggle out of both of those drivers, both Corey Silva and Tyler Seville wrestling their machines and keeping them both going straight. I was a bit surprised there that not only do they keep them straight, but they stay side by side battling right up there at the top side of your screen. The minty green number 11 machine. I think that's a mint green. I don't know what else you'd kind of call that number 11. Maybe a winter green color on that number 11 machine. Battling with the bright orange number 94. There they are right there on the center of your screen. This is the battle right now for the 5th spot. Corey Silva almost making contact with the wall. And look, he's right behind him. The number 27 machine of Jordan Harnish had that good long run pace. Well, now what can he do here as he tries to battle for a top 5 finish here tonight? Slowly but surely working his way up. He started down in 34th, now running in 7th.
It's been a great run for that 27, working himself up to 7th right now. The problem for him is we have about 20 laps left in this race, just a little more than that, I think. Is that enough time for that long run pace to come out? Usually it takes Richmond maybe about 30 or 40 laps for long run speed to really start to show. So I just want to watch, does he have enough time to take advantage of the long run speed we know he has tonight? But he's watching a great battle go on in front of him.
Final 10% here in tonight's Sim Speed Shop Wheelman Showdown, race number 2. Next week we will be at round number 3 of the Sim Speed Shop Wheelman Showdown at the Talladega Super Speedway. Definitely going to be a fun one, folks. You don't want to miss it here on 3Y TV. It's the American Sim Racing Series Hacksaw PC's series roars into Talladega, Alabama. But we have to see out the end of tonight's race here at Richmond. Just under 15 miles to go, 20 laps left or so here around this 3/4 mile racetrack, and it seems like everything calming down at least. Well, things were calming down. New second place driver, the number 29 machine of Will Worther, were able to get around Greg Evans. He's kind of on a charge here. Mitchell?
Well, he had a big wiggle coming out of turn 4. I've been watching this 29 and 2 for the last few laps. That 2's been putting a lot of pressure on that 29s. We're also watching the 92 of Evan Black. This battle between these two cars side by side again, really letting that 92 close up. And it's becoming a 3-car battle. It's that 2 trying to roll the high line. We've seen them struggling for grip like we have all night long, but the 2 got a great run down the front stretch. He'll clear the 29 headed into turn 2.
So Evans back up to second. That's exactly where he started the night here at Richmond. Eckrich started in 4th, Evans started in 2nd, and Worther, of course, started on the Midwest Simulations pole. But what about Evan Black? He just made the move on Will Worther to get back up into the 3rd position. Great job by Evan Black here tonight. We talked to him under caution there just after the halfway mark, and he said, you know what, after the season I'm having, I just want to get out of here with a top 5. And he definitely has had a ton of pace, started back in the 19th position, has had a lot of fun passing cars, made that pass on the number 29 machine. And what can he do with the number 2 of Greg Evans? I'm a bit disappointed, Mitchell, because I was really hoping to see that race go kind of green to the end because Evans was just starting to close in on Scott Eckrich. But as of right now, that number 70 up to a 1.4 second lead. And with the pace that number 70 has had all night long, it's going to be really hard for anyone to catch him. I think Greg Evans is going to need another caution here.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of drivers out here probably want to see a caution. A lot of these cars seem fast. Most of them have been kind of coming in more on the long runs. Like we saw the 2 on the last run, like you said, kind of starting to inch closer toward the 70 again, but there's not really enough time for that to happen. So a lot of these drivers really need help from some kind of a caution. And we see late race cautions a lot. The intensity right now is higher than it's been all race long, as we're looking at a battle a little bit farther back between the 63, I believe. That is, Peter. Yeah. Racing the 10, missing the front end of that car.
Yeah, in fact, I was just about to mention this group of cars right here because we haven't really mentioned his name here tonight. Jonathan Holstein in the number 73 machine. He's running in 8th just in front of these two. And then you got Nick Curling, last night's race winner here in the American Sim Racing Series, running in 9th. And Johnny Avila, remember, he was off strategy. He'd accidentally used a set of tires too early. Well, he's been able to get back on sequence with everyone, and he's inside the top 10, right in front of the number 5 machine of Braxton DeWeese. And how about the 12th place machine here right now? That is the Equestra Bank number 17 of Kevin Stone, having a great run here tonight. Of course, last week, Famucci Ware 200 at Martinsville. He had Famucci Ware on the hood. That's one of his sponsors, but we'll have to come back to that one because caution flag is in the air, trying to figure out what might have brought out this particular caution. I haven't seen anything. I think there's some tire tracks out there on the racetrack that look a little bit questionable. And I think it happened Gary Reynolds Jr. as well as Todd Kirkwood possibly making some contact. We'll have to go back and see if we can see what happened between the iHeartRadio number 13 machine and the Jerky Lodge number 86, but there was definite contact. That was the tire marks I was seeing in turn number 3 with that number 86 Jerky Lodge Toyota Camry going for a half spin. We'll see if we can dial up the replay for you folks. Might take us just a little bit here on 3 Wide TV to get that one dialed up, but it was definite contact between the 13 and the 86 to bring us under caution flag here tonight. And there might have been a little bit of a nudge by Todd Kirkwood just to the back bumper of that number 13 machine as well. Just, I don't think that was intentional. I think the 13 might have slowed up a little bit. And, there was almost contact. Nothing major, if anything, between them. But unfortunately, we're unable to get that replay lined up for you folks. So it was pretty minor. A bit surprised that it brought out the caution flag, to be honest with you, Mitchell. But sometimes iRacing sees a car that's a little bit more sideways than it should be and brings out the caution flag.
Yeah, one driver I think who's really glad to see that is that two of Greg Evans. We were talking about it right before that caution came out. The two seems to be faster, kind of once the tires wear off, but needed a caution to get back up to the 70. Well, now he's got it. So be really interesting to see what that 2 car and even that 92 car of Evan Black and the 29 of Will Worsler, all those drivers have speed, and now they've got a chance to get there close to that 70, who they really haven't been able to touch, but they're not going to have a lot of laps left. So if you can find a way to get that position late and hold on to it, you could be walking out of this thing with a win.
That you could, and who knows, if Evans and Eckrich get side by side, that might open the door for Evan Black to make a move. We've seen 3 wide here tonight. Heck, we've even seen 4 wide earlier in the race. Anything can happen in racing, and it often does here on 3 Wide TV. So make sure you stay tuned in for this one. Question for the chat. If you're alive in chat land, hopefully you are. We got 29 people, according to YouTube, currently watching right now. How many green-white checkers are we going to see? And how many people are we going to see involved in those green-white checkers? I don't know. We have multiple attempts here in the Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series. Will we see 1 attempt, 2 attempt, 3 attempt? I don't know. Will we see 0 attempts? Because I'll see if the pace truck lights turn off. Of course, we could have an unofficial green-white checker, a 2-lap shootout. So, we might see 4 with the unofficial one. Yeah, of course, Mitchell. So, who knows? Who knows how many we're going to see? That's the question for the chat to figure out.
And we're coming toward the end. We're looking at really short runs, 1 or 2 or 3 lap run here at the end. So the intensity is just going to be picking up, and cautions breed cautions. And I think a lot of these guys would be willing to take it 3 wide right now if they had a chance at the race win. So definitely be watching on this restart. I think especially at the front, those guys have a lot to win here.
Well, we're going to have a green-white checker. We're going to have a 3-lap shootout here at Richmond Raceway. So just add an extra green onto the front of the green-white checker. So we'll have 3 laps to go when the pace truck peels down onto pit road. You see the number 70 machine of Scott Eckridge choosing the high line for the restart, maybe trying to get a little bit of a wheel grip out of that number 70 machine. Pace truck down pit road. We're back green, and look at that number 70 shot out like a cannon as he goes off into turn number 1.
Got a lot of grip rolling on that high sides. The battle's on for third right now. The 2 of Greg Evans is also cleared. The 29 now pulling clear of that 92 of Evan Black. Nobody really got anything for that 70. He got a great run as we're coming to 2 to go now, I believe.
Yeah, just 2 laps to go. We'll see if we can get around to the white flag. If we can, we will have 0 green-white checkers, and the DMLC Racing Channel will be right single file up at the front of the field, gap growing between the number 70 and the number 2. Caution flag is out. Car around on the backstretch. John Eckhart in the number 45 machine. And I think we also had a car going up the racetrack in turn number 3. But Eckhart was definitely the car that went around on the backstretch. We'll see if we can break down exactly what happened here on this 3-wide TV replay, Mitchell. But we're going to have a green-white checker here.
Yeah, and it's just another chance for those drivers as it looked like they were 3 wide coming out of turn 2. I maybe got a little loose. I can't quite see it, but big contact with the inside wall. That car's definitely hurt after that one.
Yeah, we'll see if we can get another look at this from the blimp cam. Watch the number 45 machine of Eckhart up there on the top side. That's the number 23 there. In the middle, Steve Yenish, and there looked like just the slightest of contact between the 23 and the 45. And unfortunately, that little bit of net code just puts the 45 machine around. It looked like for maybe a brief second that the number 45 was going to get away with that contact scot-free, but iRacing sometimes reaches out and grabs onto your race car, and unfortunately for the number 45 machine of Eckhart, it hasn't been the night he was hoping for in that Camping World Toyota. Great looking paint scheme on that number 45 machine. We also saw the 18 of Mullins there have a little bit of a moment into the inside wall as well. So both of those cars a little bit worse for wear, but we're going to have to re-rack them and have another attempt here at, in fact, the first attempt at a green-white checker. The first one, of course, was a 3-lap shootout. Now we're down to a 2-lap shootout in the first official attempt at a green-white checker here on 3-Wide TV. Nicky Worsler in the chat, rooting on Will Worsler Racing. Nate Trimble says, I'm thinking just the 1. So, Nate, we're on your number now. We'll see if anyone else pipes up in the chat because, you know, we're at least going to have 1 here tonight. I was looking through some of the chat just a little while ago, and I really liked what Jim Foose said about turn number 1. I was at one point in the race, I was trying to explain exactly where turn number 1 starts, because to me, it almost starts immediately after you go past the start-finish line. Well, Jim Foose had to say, the setup for turn 1 begins all the way back in the middle of turn number 3 and 4, and that is definitely the case if you're looking to make a pass on someone, Mitchell. You really have to plan your pass, and I'm sure a lot of drivers in their head right now for this green-white checker attempt, they're going through that motion of making a pass, setting up a pass here very, very quickly for this restart.
Yeah, and when you get a late race restart, like we saw that 70 really jump off the line, went a little bit earlier, I think, and really got a great jump. If you're the 2, the 29, the 92, you've seen that now. You know that that's what he did on the last restart, so now you're more prepared for it, and you kind of have to run in your head, okay, if he does that again, what am I going to do to give myself a chance to make that pass for the race win?
Yeah, and of course, we've seen mind games all season long out of the 70 of Scott Eckridge and the number 2 of Greg Evans. If one of those drivers can win tonight, they're currently being scored first and second, they will have won 8 of the first 9 races between them. Evans currently has won 4. Eckridge has currently won 3. If Eckridge can win, he will tie up that number for the most wins on the season between those two. We saw Greg Evans last season get into double-digit wins, folks. Dominated last season here in the Hacksaw PC Premier Cup Series. Scott Eckridge jumps back into the series. Of course, he wasn't away for all too long here from the Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series, but jumps in, hits the ground running, starts picking up wins, and everyone has their eyes on that number 70 machine for this restart because he is your race leader. Pace truck lights are off. And there goes the pace truck onto pit road. The 70 of Eckrich on the loud pedal early, catching Greg Evans sleeping. He's going to pull away. Look at the number 92 of Evan Black trying to get to the outside of Evans as they go off into turn number 1.
I think it was a better restart for that too. I think he was a little more ready for it, but the 70 just again got a lot of grip, and now the two's faced with a battle for seconds. He slides up the track, a little contact with the 92. Is maybe 3 wide? No. White flag in the air one last time around Richmond.
Yep, we will only have one attempt at a green-white checker. Evans once again pushes up the racetrack, gives a little bit of a nudge to Evan Black. Evan Black now going to have to hold on for third. Looks like coming out of turn number 4, Scott Eckrich will just have clean racetrack. He's going to pick up win number 4 on the season. The side-by-side for third is going to go to Black, as Greg Evans comes home in second in the number 2 machine. But Scott Eckrich here again tonight, leading the most laps. Someone went spinning across the start-finish line. We'll have to see who that was. It was Steve Yenish in the number 23 machine, it appears. We also appeared to have some smoke in turn number 1 and 2 there at the end. Well, what a night for that number 70 machine, I should say, Mitchell.
Yeah, fast all night long, and we saw it late in this race. Just nobody really could match the speed that 70 car had. Just played those restarts great and got off perfect, and he's going to come home with a well-deserved win tonight here.
He has proven he is a master of doing burnouts here on the channel. Doing another one here across the start-finish line, right down there on the apron. Keeping it right down there below that yellow line. Masterful burnout for driver of the number 70 Amsoil Chevrolet. Greg Evans, like I said, coming home in second. Evan Black in third. Will Worsler in fourth, just losing out that spot late to Evan Black. Corey Silva rounding out your top 5 here tonight. Jordan Harnish finally able to kick off the monkey off his back, finishing in 6th. Tyler Seville 7th. Nick Curling, Thomas George, and Jeff Yenish able to round out your top 10 here tonight. So a lot of interesting storylines coming out of this race tonight, Mitchell. It was a topsy-turvy race, but for Scott Eckrich, he had the field covered.
Yeah, it definitely did. And we saw a lot of mixing up inside that top 10 there, especially in the end. A lot of great battles, and some drivers who were up there most of the night just getting caught in things late and just couldn't quite be there at the end of it.
So there you see your top 10 as I named them out. A couple of those Will Worsler racing machines up there towards the front of the field. Jordan Harnish there coming home in 6th. And like I mentioned, kicking that monkey off his back. Curling George Yenish rounding out your top 10. Vila, great recovery for him. He was off strategy at one point. Jonathan Holstein there finishing in 12th. He was inside the top 10 until those late race restarts. Braxton DeWeese finishing 13th. Jackson Van Volkenberg, Kevin Stone, Mark Myers, Tim Knott, Alan Young rounding out your top 18 here tonight. Rhett McBride in the 15, finishing 19th. A.J. Digby back behind him in 20th. Doug Mullins, John Eckhart, who was involved in multiple accidents here tonight. Gary Reynolds Jr., Todd Kirkwood, Steve Yenish, Jason Stewart, Richard Flesher rounding out all of your lead lap cars. Michael Krobach in the 72 machine just cannot catch a break here in the Cup Series, finishing in 28th. Mitch Brown had those connection issues fairly early in the race, finishing 4 laps down. I think he was 5 laps down, so he was able to get a lucky dog at one point, finishing 29th. Brian Yazik, he had a great race going here tonight until getting involved in an accident, finishing 6 laps down. Grant Brown, 19 laps down in 31st. Adam Jersky, Adam Littell, Troy Haight, Jonathan Cadell, Woody Mahan, and Pete Baskins rounding out your field here tonight at Richmond. But folks, we're going to see if we can get some post-race interviews lined up for you folks in just a brief moment. But we'll just take a quick step away, and we'll be right back with those interviews. All right, folks, welcome back to Richmond International Raceway here on 3YTV, where tonight's Sim Speed Shop Wheelman Showdown Richmond 200 has come to its conclusion. We're going to talk to our top 3 finishers here tonight, starting with our 3rd place, number 92 machine of Evan Black. And Evan, you mentioned they're around 2/3 of the way into the race. And if you could finish behind Greg Evans or Scott Eckrich, you'd count it as a win in your book. Well, that's what happened. Some great late race racing with you and Will Warser. Talk us through tonight's race here at Richmond.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of knew coming into it, like I said earlier, I just wasn't going to have any speed on the short run, and it came down to a couple short runs there at the end, and luckily it just worked out where I was able to get to the outside of Will, and then on that final restart I got to the outside of Evans, and he slid up a little bit. We just had a little bit of contact there, which kind of hard to avoid at that point with how old the tires are. We're all going for it, but yeah, I just knew coming into it it was going to be all about the long run, for me at least, and I was hoping we'd get some in, which thankfully we did, so I was able to get through the field from 19th to 3rd and up here on top of the poor man's podium, best of the rest, up there with the Eckrich and Evans show, so I'll take P3.
Yeah, they've combined to win 8 of the first 9 races here tonight, and of course you as a driver, you're probably hearing from a lot of other drivers about how much practice they're going to have to put in for the different races, to try and usurp them from winning these races. How much practice have you been putting in for these American Sim Racing Series Hacksaw PC Series races this year?
Well, before the race, I put in about no practice before, and then this one here tonight, I got into the pre-qualifying session because I'm not good in points at all right now, and got in there with about 5 minutes of qualifying, ran that, and then ran the 30 minutes of race practice, so 35 minutes of practice tonight so far. And that's kind of how my season's been. I haven't really had a whole lot of time to practice, so maybe that's part of the reason I've had 4 finishes outside the top 30, but hey, we got a P3 today, so I guess I can make it work at some point.
Well, I have to say, really, really impressive, and maybe this can be the jumping board from which, or springboard, I should say, from where your season starts to take off. Next week, we go to the high banks of Talladega Superspeedway for round number 3 of the Sim Speed Shop Wheelman Showdown. You excited to go to Talladega, put on that tapered spacer, and get out there on the high banks?
Yeah, it'll be fun. We had a really good run going at Daytona. I think we started second, was running up in the top 5 before we got caught up in a wreck. But I gotta say, if I want momentum going into a place, Talladega is not that place, because at that point, momentum really doesn't matter. It's just kind of whatever happens in that race. I mean, I don't know if I'll be wanting to stay in the back or run up front. Usually I try and run up front because I feel like just as many wrecks happen in the back. So we'll just kind of see what happens and try and start up front and run up front and hopefully just stay up there, lead a lot of laps and get the win. That's the plan. Kind of going to have to, I think, win a race at this point to get to the playoffs, 'cause I'm just so far behind. So just going to go for the win.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think it's going to be most of the field versus Evans and Eckrich. They're going to have to pair up next week if they're going to want to get to the front, because I think a lot of the field has realized it's time for us to win, hey, Evans and Eckrich. So we're definitely going to be a fun one next week at Talladega Superspeedway. Before we let you go, Evan, you got any shout-outs for us here on 3YTV?
Not really a whole lot. Just gotta shout out my teammates Corey and then Adam and a few others. Couldn't be here tonight, but they were watching in chat, so shout out to them. To my team, Doesn't Matter Motorsports. It's not a team, it's a movement. And in the end, it doesn't matter. So have a good night, guys.
All right, well, we will let Evan Black go celebrate his 3rd position. Great job for him here tonight. But let's see if we can dial up tonight's 2nd place finisher, Greg Evans. I believe Mitchell Adams has caught up with the 2nd place finisher.
Yeah, Greg Evans, this is Mitchell Adams in the 3YTV booth. You got a copy?
Yes, sir.
Well, we saw you start this race off in 2nd, and that's where you ended up bringing it home. What'd you think about the racing tonight out there?
It was definitely a lot better than Martinsville. And it was just a battle for track position, and it just seemed like on those last couple of restarts, we didn't have it. We were just in the lane that we didn't need to be in, and I really felt like me and Scott were pretty evenly matched most of the race. He was a little quicker on the short run. I think I had just a little bit maybe better than on the long run, but overall a pretty good race. Like I said, it's good to see some green flag laps being turned. Just one of those you could just, if we was in a different lane once or twice, it might have had a different outcome. But that's part of it.
And you're talking about those final restarts. What were you thinking going into those restarts? Were you planning on how you might be able to make a move on that 70 for the race win?
Yeah, we were. I mean, there was one restart where my car pulled to the inside before we got to the start-finish line, and it's hard to go back and say that changed things, but put us back like 3 or 4 positions right off the bat where I thought we wasn't going to be there. We was trying to stay with Scott, and then we had to work our way through everybody. And when you're trying to pass 4 or 5 cars and the guy you're chasing is only passing 1 or 2, it just changes things. But like I said, we wanted to be on the outside for the restarts because that's where everybody wanted to be, especially getting into one. But that's just part of racing. You can't always pick where you want to be, so that's just got to take it as it is and do the best you can.
And looking ahead at the next race at Talladega, what do you think about the 2 cars' chances to maybe put it in victory lane there?
I hate that track. I hate it. We won Daytona this year, but I mean Carlos and Peter, they all know that I hate restrict plate racing. You'll see me in the back about 90% of the time, so we'll just we'll try to survive there like everybody else does. It's just such a crapshoot. And it's fun for a lot of guys, but not a big fan of it.
And before we let you go, Greg, do you have any shout outs for us here on 3Y TV?
I definitely got to thank Hacksaw PC. Like I said, they built me an amazing computer from last year. Sam Maxwell, custom wheels for the steering wheel. My guys from Steel Horse Racing, iRacing, iFlag. Got to thank Duct Tape and Sure Tape and Freightliner, of course. Still trying to work on that deal, but just got to thank all those guys for everything they do, and thank Sam and Jim for admin in the race, and 3Y TV for broadcasting it.
Yes, thank you for talking with us, Greg, and good luck next week at Talladega.
Have a good night.
All right, well, that's going to do it for our second place interview here tonight with Greg Evans, driver of the number 2 machine, winner of 4 races this season, but the only other driver to win 4 times this season is our race winner here tonight, driver of the number 70 machine, Scott Eckrich. And Scott, here again tonight, showing the fans that you know how to get things done, leading the most laps here tonight and having one heck of a hot rod. Tell us about your night.
Yeah, I wasn't quite sure about this one with Richmond. Me and Greg have battled here for, I don't know, 6 years. These short tracks, he's always been killer at. I've always had that same problem that we had tonight, where he would start reeling me back in, 50 laps into a run. So that was a heck of a race by him, but we're real happy to get her done tonight. So.
In fact, you took my question right out of my mouth. Right there, we had that caution flag. You had about 45, almost 50 laps on your tires, somewhere in that realm. And sure enough, like you mentioned, the number 2 machine of Evans was starting to close in. What was going through your head when you had that late race caution, was able to get those fresh rubber on them?
Yeah, I mean, when we got out, when we took the green flag originally, 40 laps earlier, my original plan was just kind of to see if I couldn't get out to second and a half lead and just kind of chill there. And we kind of got there. It just, when we started pulling up on that lap traffic, the dirty air, it's just insane. And I hadn't really saved my tires at that point enough either. So it was just kind of a double whammy there. And we were just, I knew I probably had, maybe 10, maybe 15 laps before he got there if I managed it correctly. So I was just hoping for the caution so we could reset, because I knew my strength was, kind of that medium run.
Well, definitely was very strong for you here tonight, especially with the way that the caution flags flew here tonight. A lot less numerous than what we saw last week at Martinsville, and we got to see some great racing out there. What was the racing like from your perspective, especially in that time where you had to come from 21st, I believe it was, on slightly fresher tires, only 15 lap fresher tires than most of the other cars, but you raced your way from 21st up to 3rd pretty darn quickly.
Yeah, these new tires are killer. Even 10 laps, I think, was the difference at the time. You're just way faster. So we're just trying to manage that, not get the the nose knocked off of it through there. I think we took one person 3 wide, so sorry, but we're just trying to get up back to the front before you wore the good out of the tire and they equalized. So it just it was all right on my run. I know some other guys had some bad luck later on, but it was pretty respectful when I came through there.
Absolutely, it was definitely a great night here at Richmond. Some fantastic racing here in the Wheelman Showdown, and want to ask you, this is your second win in that Sim Speed Shop Wheelman Showdown. Eyes on the prize already at this point of the season?
Oh, I totally forgot about that. Yeah, sure, why not? I'm all game for that.
2 for 2. Got that win in Atlanta a couple weeks back and getting the win here tonight at Richmond. Scott, before we let you go, any shout outs?
Yeah, Graphic LC Motorsports, team owner Mark. Wish you could have been here tonight, but we brought one home for you. And I got yelled at last few weeks because I didn't mention Adam Blatel, my main car sponsor, Amsoil by Adam Blatel. So shout out to him. Thanks for hooking me up every year.
Absolutely. Well, Scott, congratulations on picking up win number 4 this season, tying Greg Evans with 4 wins in the first 9 races. Really, really impressive between you two, but we'll get to see you battle it out for race number 3 of the Sim Speed Shop Wheelman Showdown next week at Talladega. Best of luck on the high banks.
Appreciate it. We're going to need it.
All right, well, that is driver of the number 70 machine and winner here tonight at Richmond Raceway. Definitely a great race. Some fantastic side-by-side action here tonight, Mitchell. I really loved seeing that in the middle portions of the race. 2 and 3 wide, drivers on different strategies, just making it interesting for us up here in the booth and everyone back home.
Yeah, there were a lot of different things going on in the race, and throughout the night we saw a lot of great side-by-side action. We saw the occasional contact, but I think for the most part these guys put on great racing with 2 and 3 wide, and especially on those final restarts, really not being afraid to dice it up a little bit, put on a show for us.
Absolutely. Well, folks, definitely a fun race here tonight. Make sure you join us next week, 9 o'clock Eastern, next Wednesday night, April 21st, Talladega, Alabama. Definitely going to be a good one. Another 200-mile event here on 3 Wide TV. Want to give a big shout out to our friends over at Sim TV for the camera angles that we have each and every week here on the channel. Make sure you go check them out here on YouTube while you're at it. And make sure you check out tonight's race sponsor, Sim Speed Shop, as well as Hacksaw PC. Recently debuted a new website at Hacksaw PC. It's super, super cool. I absolutely love my Hacksaw PC, so make sure you go check them out. But for myself, Peter Short, Carlos Acosta, and Mitchell Adams, have a good night, stay safe, and we shall see ya!